The Don Tony and Kevin Castle Show contains explicit language and is intended for mature audiences only. But just because you're mature doesn't mean you can't be a little naughty.
He looks like a fatter version of Funaki. I mean, that's Morishima. I don't know, what is that? That's like, introduce a new quarterback for the Jets. He comes out with a big stomach. He comes out like, swilling a beer, half shaved.
Whatever.
Teddy Hart doesn't warrant any type of a documentary unless he wants to himself now and then that's the end of his career.
Yeah, whatever.
I wanna fuck you like an animal. I wanna feel you from the inside. I wanna fuck you like an animal. My whole existence is flawed.
Oh no, oh no, oh no. Yo, 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 oh no, you didn't.
'Cause this is my United States of
Kevin Castle.
And this is my United States of
Don fucking Zilla.
And this is my United States of whatever.
All right, there's not too many intros we could actually put on YouTube without getting flagged for copyrights. That one seems to be okay. So what's going on, everyone? August 11th, 2024. Welcome to your special edition of the Don Tony and Kevin Castle Show live on YouTube. I am Don Tony, and he is
Kev Castle. What's going on, everybody?
How's it going, Kev? How's your weekend so far?
Oh, I'm just fucking exhausted. Took too much. I have like a summer cold, which is weird because you feel hot all the time, and then you're not really hot. It's just the cold. So I took way too much Vicks NyQuil shit.
Oh shit!
So I'm feeling just ass dragging since I got up this morning. So
okay, well. The good thing about these special episodes, very laid back, casual conversation, good conversation, but, easy going, easy listening. And, I want to shout out everybody who is joining us live. You obviously have an influence as far as what we talk about tonight. And, the floor is open up to everyone. But we definitely wanted to just open up with something very, very quickly. On Monday Night Show, we'll spend a few additional moments on it, but I think I guess people maybe don't realize it, but in the last 12 months, for the most part, we have lost 3 legendary wrestling promoters. We lost Jerry Jarrett, we lost Ole Anderson, and over the last couple of days, we lost Kevin Sullivan. So Kevin Sullivan, rest in peace, 75 years old, had some major health issues the last couple of months, but unfortunately caught a blood clot in his leg, and it led to, his heart and his brain, and that was it. Rest in peace.
oh, that's what happened. It was a blood clot.
Yeah, it was a blood clot.
Oh, okay. What was he initially hospitalized for? Was he having heart problems? Or?
He fell. And he had a lot of issues. And, you and I have talked about this over the years. And Scott Hall is probably the most infamous one that when you get older, a simple fall could do you in.
Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes, Scott Hall.
Scott Hall.
Kevin didn't fall the last couple of days, but he fell a few months ago. And it just made a down spiral of events. And, in July, they were reporting that he was doing much better, but it just goes to show you your body gets so fragile that he probably felt better. And then out of nowhere, boom, blood clot, nothing you can do about it. You can't, there's no way to stop it. There's no way to predict it sometimes. And, I think of even Chris Candido back in the day, because Chris Candido, when he broke his ankle, they told him don't fly. And I believe it goes back a long ways, but he flew not too long after that, and it's just terrible. 75 years old. Listen, the one thing you could say about Kevin Sullivan, what a interesting life that he had. And it's a real crying shame that the last 17 years he's going to be most remembered for being accused possibly of doing his ex-wife in. I mean, it's just sick to think about it like that. I prefer to think of Kevin Sullivan from Florida Championship Wrestling. Just an incredible run there that, you know, I don't want to take the floor on this, but I will just kind of clear something up I should have said on Friday. I took someone to task that is in the mainstream media world for saying that Kevin Sullivan in Florida was way ahead of its time. And I thought that was just, you know, just a wrong thing to say, because you would not be able to do that in the 90s, because his whole character was based on devil worship and heavy metal, and that was 70s and 80s. You absolutely could not do it in the 2000s and above. But I will say this, I wish there was the fucking internet in the early 80s. I wish they had could you imagine how big, because I only saw it in wrestling magazines at the time. I didn't get Florida Championship Wrestling over here. You imagine if we had the internet at that time. That's where I say, you know what? Too bad he didn't have that platform in the 80s.
No, and I think I told you on a trip to see my grandfather in Florida in '84, he got me and my cousin tickets to go to West Palm Beach Auditorium. And I saw it live, and she was new then. This is '84. And I told the story. I'm 15 years old, and this hot as F woman is walking around in a bikini with a dog collar on, and it turns out to be Nancy. And she's not that much older than me and you, by the way, DT, maybe 4 or 5 years older.
Yeah.
She was 19, I was 15, or she was 20. And we were just like, who the fuck is that? And it was like, then we found out she was called Fallen Angel. And some guy who was socializing with us in the seats was saying she was a fan. She actually came to shows. And that turned out to be true, that she was seen on television in Florida as a teenage fan in the crowd with her sister or her parents or something like that, Nancy, because she lived in the area. And Kevin took a shine to her, and they got together. And she was married at the time and wound up leaving her husband for Kevin. I mean, you can do the research on it. But she was walking around in a skimpy ass bikini in front of everybody, being led on a dog leash by Kevin Sullivan. So that kind of massage to the ring, not like literally all over the place, but to the ring. And I'm not sure if it was Bob Roop, was Maka Singh at that point, or Purple Haze was definitely there. Mark Lewin we saw, who was barking and doing like the Bruiser Brody roof thing up in there, and doing his eyes rolling in the back of his head. Mark Lewin did the eye roll thing better than Undertaker.
Oh, sure. Oh my God. I watched the video yesterday. I was like, wow, he's so fucking huge.
Yeah, Mark Lewin, by the way, still alive. Mark Lewin is still alive.
Wow,
he's 90 years old, and Bob Roop is still alive, and he's 85. So isn't that funny? Nancy and Kevin are gone, and Luna's gone. Bob and Purple Haze, Mark Lewin, 90, still around.
Wow.
So isn't that something? Like that, the two elder statesmen who got put in a faction in the twilight of their career are still alive and well. And Bob Roop was kind of like a Kurt Angle. You guys don't know this, but you'll see him, and he's had his head half shaved. He looked a little bulky, but that dude was a legit fucking wrestler, like a Luthez type. And it was such a crazy faction. And what DT was saying is, some people will say being ahead of your time, but Anthony's right. During the 80s, not that it was okay to treat women like property, whatever, but let's keep in mind, Nancy and Kevin were a couple. They were together. Look, you can then take Macho Man to task about how he treated Elizabeth on camera. You know what I mean? Get in the corner, get over there, and put the hand up to her like he was going to hit her. How many times has he done that? And Nancy would do, I'm the fallen angel, and here's my master, Kevin Sullivan. You could never say that today. She literally called him master, like on promos. But they were a couple. I don't know if that makes it better for anybody, Anthony, like the way Macho Man and Elizabeth were a couple. That makes it better. But Anthony's right. Heavy metal, Motley Crue and Judas Priest.
Ozzy Osbourne, Devil Worship, stuff like that.
Yeah, Devil Worship, all that kind of stuff. And Nightmare on Elm Street and all this kind of shit. Horror movies. It was the time to do it. I think what the guy who we shall not mention his name was trying to say, well, look at the Wyatt family. Guys, in all due respect, the Wyatt family's great and everything. That's fucking horror light compared to what Kevin Sullivan did, trying to hang people. He tried to hang people He almost hung a black jobber wrestler one time. He stabbed Blackjack Mulligan in a mock stabbing. You couldn't do anything like this today at all. So I think that ahead of its time, meaning that he influenced the Four Horsemen didn't influence everybody, as Anthony and me know. Kevin Sullivan's army, it was the Army of Darkness. Forget that Dungeon of Doom silly nonsense garbage that you guys saw in WCW. The Army of Darkness, Bob Roop, Nancy, Luna and the Lock, the Daughters of Darkness, Reverend Black, and Oliver Humperdinck and Mark Lewin. That was the real original crew. And much like NWO and stuff, they added people, Anthony, along the ways when people left. They added new people. Paulie Dangerously got involved at one point. A young Paul Heyman came there, but then the territory got sold because Eddie Graham had killed himself in 86. So
Yes.
86 is when they changed the game over there, and Kevin wasn't doing what he was doing. And then the next time you guys saw him was in 1987, leading the Varsity Club.
Yep.
Danny Spivey and Mike Rotundo and Rick Steiner. So there was a year gap there where Kevin was kind of trying to find what he was going to do next because everything kind of went awry after Eddie Graham killed himself. And he wound up in the NWA doing the Varsity Club, which, by the way, Anthony, I think that's hysterical that a guy who's got a cross on his head and wearing a devil worshiper cloak is leading 3 collegiate athletes to the theme song, "You Gotta Be a Football Hero." You remember that song?
Yeah,
That's
it's almost
hysterical.
like a mock. Yeah.
That's fucking hysterical.
Oh, man. Well, rest in peace, Kevin Sullivan. 75 years old, very interesting life, and very well liked. You know, despite the bullshit that went on for the last 17 years with conspiracy theorists, very, very well liked. You don't hear many people say any bad words about him. Maybe some wrestlers who felt they should have been pushed a little bit more than what they were, but
Yeah.
Kevin Sullivan, all across the board, creative mind, big time wrestling fan. And I'm a little surprised that he didn't do more in wrestling over the last 15 to 20 years. It just feels like Kevin Sullivan, you know, we always hear about Jake the Snake Roberts. Oh, you know, can you imagine Jake's creative mind and a company? And you don't really hear too much. You know, like the ones who really had that psychological, you know, control over everyone, you know, then for some reason, they're not really used as much as we would think.
Yeah, they're not. And Jake, by the way, fun fact, Jake Roberts briefly was in the Army of Darkness, but Jake went from, just like Jake briefly was in the Legion of Doom in Georgia. So Jake had been part of factions just for a couple of months, and then he got out of there. Jake, of course, in 86 wound up in WWF and was there for a long-ass run. But that was another guy who, when when Graham did what he did to himself, you know, it was kind of, everyone was kind of scrambling to find out, you know, if Mike, the son, was going to be able to run the territory like his dad. And I think
Look
Mike
what
tried
happened
his
to Mike
best.
Graham.
Yeah, Florida was never the same after 86. They stayed in business 87, 88, 89. I mean, Al Perez did a stint there. There was a lot. Dustin Rhodes started out there. But it just, and Big Steel Man, Fred Ottman, Typhoon started his career there. So it produced a few stars later on, but it just, without Eddie Graham there, it would be like losing Vince McMahon in the 80s.
That's true. Very good point. Very good point. Well, we're gonna open the floor to some questions. Big shout out to everybody who is live and on the archive. Keep supporting everything we do. Keep spreading the word. Download those shows. Keep us relevant in the stats. Pretty awesome to see the growth even over the last 30 days. And now with Roman Reigns returning, and Roman is not the be all end all as far as wrestling popularity goes, but it just really excites you as a wrestling fan. What is heading up to the fall? And then before you know it, you know, you got Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and, you know, even AEW in a lesser extent, TNA is on the upswing. You know, I think wrestling is in a pretty good place right now overall.
Yeah, I mean, he's the be all end all at the moment. I mean, I think he's going to be for a while. I mean, clearly he's the number one baby face. I mean, the merch is selling. The OTC thing is off the chain. I think the OTC shirt is starting to sell like Austin.
Yeah,
16. I got a ton of friends who already ordered the shirt. Who weren't even that big of fans his last time around. Now they're like all on board. And listen, you're going to get that. And people even say to me, Kev, does that aggravate you because you've always been a fan of his? And now everyone thinks he's the cool guy. Now it's acceptable. Nah, that's wrestling fans, man. Fickle, and that's It's trendy like that. I was into bands years ago that people shit on, and then they put out that hit song that everybody loved, and everybody started rocking the shirt. So I've seen this before. Same thing with the Mets, and when they play
Sure.
well, let's go Mets. When they don't play
Ultimate
well,
Warrior.
fuck the Mets.
Ultimate Warrior. We always
rode that
bandwagon, and when he became beloved again, it was like, man, look at all these people that were off that bandwagon, and only because it's popular to like him again. But you know what? You should just take pride that you supported this guy all along.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
You saw
the
it.
nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the nature of the beast, though. Even with pop bands or metal bands who make a comeback and then put out an album people like, if they even like 2 or 3 songs on them, that's my band. So it's whatever floats your boat, whatever gets your interest, I guess. I've never been a fair weather fan of anything. I mean, I'm down with the Mets, whether in last place or whether we go to the playoffs, whether we blow it or win the World Series. Fair weather fans, to me, I don't really take their opinions that seriously then, because any day they can jump off the boat. Roman Reigns today, hate him tomorrow. I don't really put much stock in their opinion then.
Yeah, I agree. Let's tackle some super shout outs, and we just actually got one that's probably going to pop up on the screen any second. I want to give a much appreciated thank you to Chaos, one of the biggest supporters of what we do, man. And that's not Chaos on the screen. Sorry about that. Police Squad, we're not going to forget about you, buddy, but there you go. Thank you, Chaos, my friend, sending us the 20 spot. Thank you for the Sunday show, DTKC. Appreciate you guys. Keep grinding to the top. Guys, we're going to hit number one. If we could listen, I want to make this clear, and I'm not going to go on a rant. We're not in competition with Jim Cornette. We're not in competition with Bischoff or Dutch Mantella, Vince Russo, or JD or Solomons or anybody else. We're in competition with ourselves. There's plenty of wrestling fans to go around for everybody to succeed. But believe me, when we see, not necessarily in the United States yet, we're like top 30, top 40, around there, but when you see like a country like India with 5 billion people, and we're in the top 10, and we're above, like shows like Cornette and others, that tells us, like, all right, people are starting to enjoy this kind of style of discussion. We don't try to be like anybody else. We just do our thing, and we're pretty confident that sometime in 2025, we're gonna have bragging rights. We're gonna reclaim our number one spot across the globe. And, it's just awesome that you are all here for the ride. Whether you are visible to us or you're a lurker, just supporting what we do is just immense. And we can't thank you enough. And that's why we are doing what we're doing.
No, of course, and even shout out to the fans of Great Britain too, where we were in the top 15.
Yeah, top 15 in Great Britain.
That was great. Yeah, and over some shows that have much more flex than we do in the scene, because people, I think, mistake Anthony sometimes longevity for like kind of strength in numbers, but longevity, like I talk about this all the time. There are punk bands that came well before, the Ramones and the Clash, and they never got like a hit single, radio rock, whatever. So everyone thinks, and then when they hear other bands, Black Flag, Fear, stuff like that, they're like, oh shit, they were around even before then. Oh yeah, how come they're not as famous? It's like, because it's kind of depends on the situation. Sometimes it's even almost better to be lucky, be in the right place at the right time. Doesn't downplay the quality of the music or the bands or the quality of other podcasts. Some people kind of hitch their wagon to the right star, and they have the right kind of support. And, some people just follow people differently than others. Our fan base has always been pretty tight and strong, but I think we're more of a select listen than anybody else. We're older guys than most of our competition, not by much, not Cornette and those guys, but talking about the non-wrestling podcast, Anthony, me and you, kind of like the elder statesmen. Yeah. And you'd have Mish who'd be in his mid-40s and my brother who's 50, but we're the elder statesmen. That's cool for a lot of people, and for some of the younger folks, like, I don't know if I can connect to them because they're closer to my parents' age. But then you hear what we talk about, and if you're really an aficionado on wrestling and an historian, you'll be like, oh no shit, I want to learn about this. I want to like sit under that learning tree and hear about the old days, because I'm all in on wrestling. I want to hear about its history. Then we're the right podcast for you. But and we never been, even back in the day, like very trendy. We just kind of had our following, and I was even surprised how big we hit. 2015, 16, getting in Rolling Stone, all the things that happened for us. The CM Punk documentary.
Bully
with,
Ray wanting to beat the shit out of us.
Bully Ray publicly going after us. I mean, it's funny. I made a joke on his Twitter would seem to be cool now. I mean, I don't really interact with him.
I have no problem with him now. No.
Well, he was still no, neither do I. But he was talking about opening up at a rock bar, and who knows better than me. But in a joking way, he said, "What should to the fans? What should he name his new rock bar that he's looking to open up?" And I said, "Anything but the Blue Oyster." So from and everyone started putting. Now he's my age and your age, so he should totally get that reference.
Yeah.
But that was a haha. That wasn't anything direct towards him. That was just a cultural nod to the Blue Oyster bar in Police Academy. He definitely should know that was just a ha. It wasn't anything insulting towards him. And I'm in the rock club business, so actually, if he wanted advice, he could DM me anytime if he wants. But yeah, no, I'm just saying that. So to me, there might be bands, shows that have bigger numbers and larger numbers, and we're not trying to play catch up with some of these shows. To us, we just do what we do. We're happy with the fan base we have. If we grow, but you're right, DT. To even try to be in competition with people 20 years our junior, it's not for us. And you guys, when you get to be our age, you'll look at it the same way. You've been there, done that already. The only proving ground we have is to you guys who support us. Anybody else doesn't want to come, or they're like, oh, those guys are old. Then don't listen. God bless. I salute, right? DT, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, no, we're content. We want to grow, of course, but we're not trying to ever. Oh, this show has 1,000 people more. It's exhausting being in competition with people. No pressure. We're just enjoying the ride, and that's why you guys are saying every show has been on point, and me and DT have just clicked on all cylinders. It's because we're not putting that pressure on ourselves that we might have done, DT, years ago.
It took me many years to realize my immaturity and acknowledge it and accept it and try to improve on it. So, and I will say this very quickly to who wrote this Prayer to Covenant in the chat. I do truly believe one day mission I will make amends. I have no anger towards him. And I brought this up on Friday. What he did for Kev and I from the mid 2000s to the mid 2000 teens, even above that, will never, ever be underappreciated. And down the line, I'm sure we will talk again. And I wish nothing but the best for Soup. And trust me, when I see Soup right up there as well, it puts a smile on my face, despite, the falling outs and everything, because I know that those guys work hard and they do give a shit about wrestling and they do it for the right reason. So, I mean, we all want to make money and success, but they don't do it simply because of a money grab. And, you see the bad takes. I mean, without naming a name, that same person that we called out on Monday for publicly saying that Roman Reigns, returning is a bad idea, that person did a live stream less than 48 hours ago, and the original title for the live stream was, I stand by what I said. Roman Reigns returning at SummerSlam was a mistake. And I'm like,
yeah, doubling down is just ridiculous. Let me just say too, as someone who does Soup shows and part of that group, there's never a bad word said about Anthony. Not in front of me, not behind, not off the air, on the air. People are just doing their thing, but there's no animosity there. And I believe too, one day that you and Mish will absolutely make amends. And I know Draper, my brother, is fond of you.
John is awesome, man.
Spitball Media. So there's nothing like if you guys return to the old days, and only in terms of haha and comedy, but none of that stuff that caused divisiveness in the first place. It's all gone for all of us, and we're all older. You guys have to understand, when you get to our age and stage, Mish too, my brother's over 50, it's different now. It just becomes different. You don't have a choice. You have to evolve and maturity, because if you don't, you're going to be the loneliest guy in the room. I can tell you right now.
And I'm not good at faking,
neither am I. I can't. It's exhausting, man. It's exhausting.
You got to keep up keep a front that's not genuine. But we're gonna lighten up the mood now. With
you want to shout out those super chats?
Yeah, we got another one. This is a good one from Police Squad.
A few of them, yeah.
Yeah, pick one current, and trust me, chat room, please. You do not have to send a super chat. I mean, it helps pay the bills, but we're gonna get to everybody tonight. No worries. Yeah. All right, Kev, pick one current wrestling theme that you like that most people hate. For Police Squad, it's Naomi's theme, and he said DTKC for life. Now, we saw some of these questions before we went live, so I actually thought about this for my answer, and my answer probably makes some people laugh. But, Kev, pick one wrestling theme right now that you like that you think most people hate.
That I like that most people hate?
Yes.
Well, everybody seems to love the Roman Reigns, so I wouldn't even touch that. That's like the number one downloaded theme.
Yeah.
So that I like. I'm not
What?
sure. Actually, I like Valkyria his intro, and everybody kind of makes fun of it. Everybody kind of makes fun of it.
Oh, when she holds her hands and, you know, like,
what was they call the bird woman or the woman of the birds?
Yeah.
I think I like her. I don't know why a lot of people don't like her. I think she's all right.
She's a raver. She's a bird.
I'm not sure what her character is, but I think her entrance is kind of cool.
Yeah,
But yeah,
okay.
I'd probably say hers because you're saying one that I like that everybody hates. Nobody hates Roman Reigns theme. That doesn't even exist.
No.
That's like saying people hate pizza. I mean, that's silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go with the women, to be honest with you. I would probably go with the women, to be honest with you. And Nia, yeah, I'm gonna stick with Valkyria.
Okay. I'm going to embarrass myself only because a lot of you know that I used to be big time into like disco and dance music. One of the groups that I really enjoyed back in the day was ABBA. And I'm sorry, I hate Def Rebel music, but I like Pretty Deadly song. I mean, because it sounds so much like ABBA. It's not when they're going, "We are so pretty, all our clothes are fleek." It just sounds so much like ABBA for me. So, yeah, Pretty Deadly song. I'm a fan of.
Okay.
All right. All right. This is from Jimmy James sending the 10 spot. Without naming names, the podcaster insiders are all saying that AEW is a failure. Do you agree?
Without naming names, the podcasters all say AEW is now a failure.
Yes.
Get what my opinion is if it's a failure now, or that I'm on board with what they're saying.
Do you agree that AEW is a failure?
As of right now.
Yes, as of right now.
It's failing. I don't know if it's a fail. It's a failed business model from the get-go of letting the inmates run the asylum. I'll never forget when they were doing that press conference and Britt Baker, who half the wrestling community didn't even know who she was, got talk time at a podium after Dustin Rhodes, not Dustin Rhodes, Cody Rhodes. I'm like, who's this woman? She's going to be the face of AEW. Who the fuck is she? She's a dentist. And I'm like, I do wrestling podcasts every week. I never heard of this woman. Yeah. Oh, she was from here and there. I'm like, and she gets talk time on a podium at a press conference. It's like, what did they think? They signed Sherry Martel? I mean, who is she? So as soon as I saw that and the people who got to talk during the press conference, I'm like, never heard of this dude. Marco Stun. Who the fuck is this guy? So I'm just like, and I do a podcast every week. I do wrestling. I hear wrestling. I field questions. I get I never got questions about these people. And I just saw who they had. The actor from 90210's son, the pretty boy, Jack Perry.
Oh, Jack Perry.
I'm like, okay. Luchasaurus, the displaced guy who ratted on Bill DeMott and then went under a new gimmick when he couldn't cut it in Florida Championship Wrestling. I'm like, I guess it is an island of misfit toys, but Cody Rhodes is a star, I guess. I mean, who else? Young Bucks, whack-ass version of the Hardy Boys. Yeah, okay. And then I said from there, this shit ain't gonna make it. And everyone's telling me, I don't know what I'm talking about. Just like I told you when Roman Reigns turned heel, be the biggest star in the world, didn't know what I was talking about then either. But I was sticking to my guns in 2019, 20, where I'm like, it's a bad business model. You could do what you want and have creative input on your character, and wins and losses matter. I just thought it was a failed business model, and here we are 5 years later. I don't even know how the company. I still predict that next year it'll be sold to somebody, not necessarily Shane McMahon. I think Tony Khan is going to throw up the white flag because I don't know if Triple H will want to team up with him as long as he's the owner. My prediction is AEW will be sold to an outside entity. Triple H will then team up with the new owner and head of the company. Triple H wants nothing to do with Tony Khan. That's my prediction. That's just my prediction. A year from now, let's revisit it and see who's right. And listen, there's no Anthony's not going to send me a box of cookies if I'm right. I'd just be like, Kev, you called it. I'll be like, it's just paying attention. It's just kind of like looking at it from a business level and a street level of Triple H thinks he's a fucking herb. Tony Khan, he thinks he's a little rich ass herb. He's not going to want anything to do with that dude. But if they sell to somebody that Endeavor and Triple H respects, they'll work with the new guy and then do a crossover show with AEW. It's just my opinion. That's it. But right now, it's a failed business model. Yeah.
Yeah, to me, I'll be a little softer with it. I mean, the fact that it's still on TV and the fact that they're still generating the kind of income that they do. If Tony Khan was not a billionaire, that company would have a totally different landscape right now. But the fact that he has pretty much, an unstoppable stream of revenue, and I pointed this out a couple of weeks ago that no one has yet to even mention in any other, platform out there in the wrestling world. Shahid Khan made like $7 billion more like 3 years ago. I mean, if anybody looks at his income from like the last 10 years, 3 years ago, he had like a $5 to $7 billion jump in 1 year. And I look back and I'm like, okay, if you look at AEW signings, all the big time, big money signings have happened technically in the last 2 years. And it kind of reflects, it's almost like the scene in Goodfellas where they rob Lufthansa and they're in the back and they're like, hey, here's your cut. Here's your cut. Here's your cut. Don't tell anybody, don't spend any. I think Shahid Khan went into the back room, with Tony. Is like, hey, look, Lufthansa, here's an extra $1 billion. Do whatever you want with it. That's what I kind of feel. I think AEW is not a failure, but it will never live to the potential that it should have, because it's run like Fantasy Island. It's run like a summer camp. Like everybody could go there and they could run around free. And if they want to dress up with sweatpants all day, if they want to eat ice cream for breakfast, and they want to have pizza at 3:00 in the morning, and if they want to jump off a cage at 55 years old, whatever they want to do, go for it. Now, Bryan Danielson on Collision reveals he's got to get neck surgery later this year. And although I feel bad for him, I got to admit, some of me inside is like, you probably could have fucking prevented this if you didn't fucking wrestle the stupid extreme way you've done the last 2 years. This is the reason why, you're getting this neck surgery, because nobody reeled your ass in. That's just my opinion on it, So
yeah, I mean, no one wants to see anybody, but I'm not predicting they will go out of business when I'm predicting. So everybody's clear from my perspective. I'm not saying they're going out of business. I'm saying he's going to sell. He's going to wave the white flag. He's showing signs now. I think him not selling out the UK again is a big wake-up call. I think, a lot of people not hitting on the cylinders of merch sales and ratings, like Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, who's Okada, really meaning nothing. Who's the other guy? Will Ospreay means nothing in terms of ticket sales and ratings in the U.S. And I think he's in shock right now. He's not showing it. And if you saw the other day, he put up a "woe is me" post, as I call them, DT.
Oh yeah,
boo-boo face post.
Everybody's against him.
Everybody's against me. That's, again, I've seen this before guys quit bands or whatever. I'm the only guy in this band. Who cares? I'm like, this guy's not long for this band. They're going to kick him out. Now he's in charge. They can't literally kick him out, but he could be asked to, much like Joe Biden, step aside, because I don't think you could do this gig anymore. Not because of age, because you don't have the temperament for it. You don't have the fucking, the inner kind of strength that you need to run this game. And you gave it your best go. Bow out, sell to someone who, if you want to really keep it going, preserve it by giving it to someone who can handle it. You had 5-6 years now. You can't do it. You lost CM Punk. You picked Jack Perry over CM Punk in the annals of history. How, DT, not since the
that
Tom
is a good
Seaver
point.
trade.
That is
not
a very
since the
good
Tom
point.
Seaver. DT, you're a baseball aficionado. The Tom Seaver trade.
Oh, Steve Henderson and
yes, who they get? Joe Youngblood or Doug Flynn? I was like, I mean, marginal ball players who you guys probably never heard of, but you sure as fuck heard of Tom Seaver, because it was a horrendous move by the Mets, and they sucked for the next 7 years. One of the main reasons because of it. And I'm just saying that you can't make. Then you lost Cody Rhodes because of, in the end, I believe it did have to do with Brandy's position there as a shot caller. I think they wanted to dumb down or eliminate her. Cody will tell the story one day of what the real story is.
Conan's
But the
starting to
fact-
tease that it has to do something with Brandy and
Cody.
Britt
Yeah, it has
Baker
to do something.
and Cody.
Yeah, it had to do something with Britt Baker being like kind of, and then punishing Britt Baker. But if MJF actually literally did walk into the women's locker room and punch his fist against the wall and he's not reprimanded, but Britt Baker is, because God forbid the one guy, and by the way, he doesn't sell tickets or move tickets either. They're in Long Island here. They barely did half the thing in his home. He's like 10 minutes from the arena, and MJF's hometown barely sells out. So again, he's just like, DT, that's when you're in a deep scramble and you don't know what to do.
Yep.
And there's not one size fits all, because there are no real rules for anybody. It's make it up as you go along, and you can't fucking do that, man. You just can't do it. That's why everyone's in shock when WWE cuts high value guys, like when they got rid of Bray Wyatt that time when they released it. How could they? The biggest merch seller. He did something clearly against what they were going for, and they're all rules. WWE structured rules and regulations with majority of the talent, like 99.9%. And in AEW, it depends on if Tony Khan likes you. You can't operate like that, Anthony.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Well, Bernard asks, can we all agree that AEW is a well-funded super indie promotion? What constitutes as a story over there is very laughable. He would have hated it even as a kid. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the storylines are very, very subpar. I just, like I was talking to somebody today, and we were talking about MJF and, and about ratings. And I said, you see Roman Reigns on Friday Night SmackDown. For 2 hours, I couldn't wait to see what he was going to do at the end, and if anybody else was going to come out. And, because they want the perception that MJF is the biggest draw of the company, they have him 98% of the time be the opening quarter for the Big Bang lead-in extra rub. And I'm like, okay, that's great for just that week. But then when you watch the replay a week later, 2 weeks later, it's like, all right, after your biggest, most popular star is in the opener, it's like, I'm not going to stick around for the end. What? To see fucking Wheeler Yuta versus Swerve Strickland? As much as I love Swerve and Prince Nana, it's like, it's only good for that 1 week. And then afterwards, there's no flow to the show. Listen, everybody comes up with 1,000 excuses what's wrong with Dynamite. And I'll give you the sentence. There's no fucking flow for the show. There's no anticipation. It's not when you have a movie, there's a script and there's a build to the end of the movie. Here, there's no build. It's just like random things. It's like, when I first watched The Godfather when I was a kid, not part 1 or part 2. After part 2 came out, they came out with a version on VHS. And what they did was they kept going back to when Marlon Brando was Robert De Niro, and they kept flashing back and forth and back and forth. And when I was young, I was like, I'm fucking confused. Like, I'm watching one moment it's 1940, another moment it's 1910, and they keep going back and forth, back and forth. Then they came out with the set where it goes from beginning to the present. And I was like, now I get it. Now I understand why everything is happening. There's no fucking flow to that show. There's people strategically positioned in areas so they can turn around and have bragging rights that this person is the highest draw, this person is the biggest rated, and it tremendously hurts their show. That's why I say it'll never reach its potential. And I agree with Bernard. It is treated as a super indie promotion. And if you want to keep putting yourself in the same sentence with WWE, you cannot run it the way you do. It's like having a hot dog cart and then right next to a Nathan's. You can't say you're in competition with Nathan's even though you both sell hot dogs, because you got a fucking hot dog cart that gets that only costs $40 to get a permit. Now you got Nathan's that has to have liability, this, that, this, and this, workers' comp, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I agree with you, Bernard. Okay. Oh, boy. Should we do these now? Ronnie sent us $30 for the show.
Okay.
And it's a bunch of if you coulds. Because, it's all right. Monday, I'm assuming this is coming out on Monday. Monday, Kevin and I were talking about Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. And just in passing conversation, we were saying, like, if you could, would you go with Liv or Rhea Ripley? And I was shocked at the Discord chat. It was like 95% Liv Morgan.
Me too. I said Liv myself if I was a younger man.
Yeah. So
Liv. Yeah, I would say Liv. Yeah.
So Ronnie posted 3 sets of these of women, and he says, here's a bunch of, if you could, guys and girls play along too. So we're going to give you these 3 sets of women, 3 posts, and we'll pick one. And we got these before the show started, and some of these are tough, man. Props to you, Ronnie. All right. Bianca Belair or Jade Cargill? If you could, Bianca or Jade?
I love Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair is adorable. Jade Cargill's sexy, but Bianca Belair is everything. Totally Bianca Belair.
Yeah, I want to preface this for everyone. If we don't choose someone, it's not because they're ugly. It's not because we don't like them. Some of these are very, very difficult. Please do not read too much into this. This is just lighthearted fun. But I agree with Kev.
It's for fun.
Yeah, Bianca Belair all the way. Alba Fire or Isla Dawn?
I particularly have a thing for Alba Fire. Everybody knows that. I don't know why, I just do. I just think there's something very sexy about her. And I know everyone loves Isla Dawn, but I'm going to go myself, Kev Castle preference, Alba Fire.
Okay, I'm going to go with Isla Dawn. You know what I think it is? Because she's thicker. I guess I just like those thick chicks,
I know a lot of guys like her. A lot of fellow podcasters like her too.
All right. Bailey or Naomi? That's kind of tough, man. They both got booty.
They're both. Listen, they're both nice people. They're just corny characters to me. I don't like either wrestling character. I'm gonna go with Naomi.
All right. I don't know. I kind of lean towards Bailey, and it's not a black or a white thing. I feel a little intimidated by Naomi. I don't know what it is. I think Bailey, I think I'll probably have an easier time like getting to get along with, and this is not just about physical. I want to make that clear. It's not just about physical.
There's always Blue Chew, DT. There's always Blue
Chew. Yeah. Oh, please. I love you, Conrad, but every 5 minutes, save with Blue Chew, buy with this. And then,
we got the most amount of 19-year-old wrestling male fans on Blue Chew. And I got news for you guys. If you're under 40, you shouldn't even be buying that shit.
Yeah.
No offense, but you should be okay under 40, not using an enhancement drug. Just saying.
Yeah. The best way I could describe that, if you're under 40, it's kind of like if you're already like on a diet, like you don't need to buy like extra diet aids. Like if you're already doing the right thing and working out and this and that,
you don't need Ozempic.
You don't need Ozempic. Exactly.
Right.
All right. Scarlett or Maxine Dupree?
Oh God, Kevin's a personal friend, as everybody knows, so that would be
I'm
weird to
kind
say.
of afraid to answer this one.
But knowing Kevin, maybe he'd be offended that I didn't pick his one. You know what? No, because I'm not. Maxine Dupree's okay, but not my type. And yeah, I'm gonna go with just Scarlett for Scarlett's into everything Kev's into, which is a lot of things I'm into, from metal to shit like that. So no, I would even say not even from a looks department. Scarlett's a beautiful woman, but just gelling with somebody, clearly Scarlett. Maxine Dupree is more of a younger, new generation type of girl. Scarlett more old school, so I would go with Scarlett.
By the way, props to everybody in the chat who's giving their opinions, because everybody that watches on the replay, they're all going to see your takes too, and that's cool. For me,
sure.
It's Maxine Dupree, and I'll tell everybody why. Because I think the day I meet Scarlett, whether it's at an autograph signing or a fan function or a convention or just at a party or wherever else, I'm probably going to get punched right in the mouth. And I'm going to be like, what was that for? And that's for you defending that fucking Mexican in Mexico that almost grabbed me. Do you remember that time?
Oh, God, yes, I do remember that.
I honestly, you
should have not even brought it up now.
I shouldn't have brought it up. I know. I was so stupid. I was like, I looked back and I was like, nobody cared about it. They cared, but it was like, why did they even go there? But I thought the guy was just trying to be innocent. And I'm like, people like DT, nobody should put their hands on a woman wrestler or a woman, period. And I'm like, he kind of right. Like, I really
That was the
felt
one
stupid
time
after that.
DT, that was the one landslide where I was like, do you agree with me or Kevin? I think I got a 90%
Oh my God, I got killed.
on that. Well, you got killed on that one. That was like, me and DT always kind of even keel. DT will beat me out by some points. But that one was like 90-10.
Yeah.
DT, what kind of take is that? What if you had a sister? What if, everyone was doing the sister-mother thing if that was your sister or mother?
That
like,
is
okay.
In the 20 some odd years of us doing this, that is the second worst take that I have ever taken next to Jim Ross. And I shouldn't bring this up.
Too,
yeah, I shouldn't bring this up, but I think people will appreciate it. People have said to me, DT, have you ever said anything on the shows that you truly regret? And some of you already know this story, but the worst thing I've ever said on the shows that I truly regret, and contrary to what some people used to say, I never said the N-word on the shows. It's just not in my vocabulary. The worst thing I ever said on the shows was back in the day, I made fun of Jim Ross. And this is a true story. If anybody doesn't believe me, you could ask him. I went on the show, and I don't know if anybody remembers Joey Buttafuoco, the guy that lived in Long Island over here, and he cheated on his wife with Amy Fisher, and she shot his wife in the head, and she survived, and
face.
Yeah, and I think Joey Buttafuoco fought China in a celebrity boxing match.
He did. He boxed against China and beat her. Yeah.
So one night I was on the show, and I was like, we should hook up Jim Ross with Mary Jo Buttafuoco. And that's because of, if anybody saw Mary Jo's face at the time. And then Jim Ross sends me an email, and he says, I have Bell's palsy because I just lost my father. And I was like, oh my God. That is like, I felt so awful, and I apologize. Now, for those that don't know, he was doing the Jim Ross reports at the time, and he went on his website and addressed what I said. And he's like, to the person who said that I should hook up with Mary Jo Buttafuoco, blah, 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 blah. And I apologized to him, and he accepted my apology. I publicly apologized. And I swear on God, my friends, I'm not kidding when I say this. After that, I must have bought about 40 bottles of JR's barbecue sauce and ketchup.
Yeah, you sent some to me. I
sent something to Kev. I gave them away on the Patreon. People are like, why do you got all this Jim Ross stuff? And I'm like, yeah, we're just giving away. It's good stuff. And I just kept buying it because I was like, I felt so awful. I was like, how do I make it up to the guy? All right, I'll just keep buying his barbecue sauce. It just got to a point that after like 5 years, I was like, I think he's kind of forgotten it by now. So I stopped buying the sauce.
He probably forgot about it.
I seriously, it's the worst thing I've ever said, not just in the shows, but in my lifetime. It was such a stupid joke at the time, and I legitimately felt awful, and I would never ever. And that joke is like 18 years ago. I mean, that was just awful.
It's water under the bridge.
All right, let's continue. Lola Vice or Stephanie Irwin?
Lola
I think
Vice.
it's Irvin. I think her last name is Irvin. He wrote Irwin.
Oh, Samantha Irvin, you mean?
Samantha Irvin, yeah. Samantha Irvin or Lola Vice?
I got to stick with Lola. Samantha Irvin is gorgeous, and I'm really kind of surprised of the pictures that she posts weekly, being the ring announcer. I mean, never seen Lillian Garcia doing that, and we certainly didn't see Howard Finkel do that. But she's a gorgeous woman, but I'm going to go with Lola Vice.
I got to go with Samantha Irvin. And franchise, the reason why I tell a story is because our base and people who tune in, there are new people that tune in every couple of weeks. So I appreciate your support and your many years of it. There's a lot of people that don't know the story. So unfortunately, I have to tell it once in a while for the people that don't know. So, but I keep it very, very minimized.
Yeah, and all podcasters do that. All podcasters.
Stephanie Irvin. I have to go with Stephanie Irvin. There's just something about her. All right. He's got more of these. Roxanne Perez or Cora Jade?
Let's dismiss how old we are now because these girls are in their early 20s, but let's do the younger version of Kevin Castle and DT. If I'm 30 years old, I am all about Roxanne Perez.
Really? Oh, you know what?
Absolutely, yeah.
If Cora Jade still had the skateboard, I wouldn't even like. It would be absolutely no. But Cora Jade lately, wow. If I was 20, 25 years younger, I mean, I still wouldn't be able to even get to meet her. And listen, again, it's not all about the physicality, everyone here. This is not straight up, like, who would you sleep with? It's just if you could, just light.
Right, and also, well, that's why even when I was talking about Scott, I'm talking about what people are into, music and
yeah,
the things that they appeal to them. So it's kind of like it's a cross section of looks, personality, and what they're into from what you know about them.
Even though we're Dice fans, it's not like, hey, Cora, let's go to a fucking restaurant, put a burger down your throat, you go back to my fucking bedroom. That's not what we're talking about here. So
I never talked that way, even when that was fashionable. So that's okay.
All right. For me, Cora Jade. All right. Mercedes Moné or Saraya?
Anybody but Mercedes Moné, so Saraya. And that's tough for me because I'm not big on her either. But Sasha Banks, the Mercedes Moné, I'd have to stand 3 feet away from her to take a picture. So no, I don't like either one. But if I have to go with, one or the other, it'd be Saraya. But I wouldn't be happy about it.
Yeah, I'm afraid to answer this. Because I actually have a legitimate, I truly feel this way. And I know if I say it, I'm going to get in trouble. But you know what? I mean, this is just in good-hearted fun. I have to choose Saraya for only one reason. And not because of Austin Creed or anything. That has nothing to do with it. I can't stand Mercedes Moné's lisp. I just can't stand that lisp. I just imagine having a conversation with her and the way she talks, like if she, just like, no, I would just be like, no.
So clearly you wouldn't go with Cody Rhodes.
No, definitely not Cody Rhodes, but no, Mercedes Moné, it's just something the way she talks. It's just like, no, I can't. I just find her annoying. There's not enough aspirin. I'd have to take a whole bottle of aspirin or just really get myself
old school Anacin. Need like 10 Anacin.
Yeah, you know what? I would even consider taking that spiked Tylenol from the early 80s if I was around Mercedes. Can you imagine having a conversation? I can't. I mean, even when I watched her Instagram video cutting a promo on Britt Baker after Dynamite, I know it's just character, but I'm just like picturing myself like hanging out with her, trying to have a conversation.
Yeah, you'll have to put her over the whole time. Tell me I'm the best. Am I the best? I'm the best, right? I'm the best. Yeah, I don't. Who wants to deal with that? No thanks.
All right, Mariah May or Chris Statlander?
I'll go with Mariah May.
There's something about Chris Statlander that's just kind of intriguing for me. Mariah May, I keep mixing her up for Tiffany Stratton. So I'll go with Chris Statlander. Kathy Kelly or Jackie Redmond? That's a good one.
Oh, that's a good one, Kathy. I'm starting to like Jackie Redmond a lot more, and she's a lot more knowledgeable about wrestling than I thought. Because I know she's a hockey girl, but she knows a lot about wrestling. She's impressed me. Definitely knows more about wrestling than Caleb Braxton did. I'm gonna go. I know everyone. Kathy Kelly's beautiful and everything, but I'm gonna go with Jackie Redmond.
All right, I'm gonna go with Kathy Kelly. I just to me, she just comes off like cool, like cooler. I'm not saying that Jackie Redmond's not cool, but I think Jackie Redmond, I don't know, there's just something a little different about her. I think Kathy Kelly just seems like she would shoot pool with you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if anybody understands what I mean by that.
Jackie's kind of like that too. She's kind of like one of the boys, actually.
Oh, yeah. Oh. All right.
Yeah, I think Kathy Kelly's more of a girly girl type than Jackie.
Yeah. Gigi Dolan or Tatum Paxley?
Oh, that's a good one. But I'm going to go with Tatum Paxley. I saw a new picture collage of Tatum Paxley yesterday. It blew me away. I'm like, she is a gorgeous, gorgeous woman. So I'm going to go with Tatum Paxley.
I'm going to go with Gigi Dolan. Zachary Wentz, you're one lucky motherfucker. That's all I'm going to say.
He is, but I'm telling you guys, check out Tatum Paxley's new pictures on Instagram. You might change your mind.
Okay. Nia Jax or Willow Nightingale. And Ronnie, did you put them both together because they're bigger women? I'm just curious, but
Nia, if I have to pick, Nia's an attractive woman, but her personality just rubs me the wrong way. But she's been a lot better since she's been back, so I'll say Nia Jax.
Believe it or not, I got to go with Nia Jax too. I think Nia Jax. I think it would be pretty like intense. Willow Nightingale, there's nothing against her. I could just imagine having like a quiet dinner with her and you dim the lights and you're like trying to get in the mood. And she comes off as someone that would just turn around in nowhere and say, "Oh, look, SpongeBob is on TV." And I would be like, "Oh, fuck." Like that's
I don't know
just,
enough. I don't know enough about her. Yeah,
she's
I don't know
too
enough about
like
her.
happy, you know. Like I don't know. I got to go with Nia Jax on that one.
Okay.
All right, he's got one more set, and thank you, Ronnie, again for the generosity. I really
Thanks, Ron.
appreciate it. You know, it definitely helps us big. All right, JC Jane or Nikita Lyons? Nikita Lyons or JC
Oh,
Jane?
JC Jane. JC Jane. Nikita Lyons would be injured for the upteenth time. So no, I'm going to go with JC Jane. I go with people who actually come to work.
I think.
So that's why I won't pick Charlotte Flair. So I'm going to go with JC Jane.
I noticed there's no Charlotte Flair on here. I just Nikita Lyons would kick my ass. I got to go JC Jane.
Yeah, that girl will break me. So I mean, I'm going to go JC Jane.
Zelina Vega or Thunder Rosa?
Oh, I love Thunder Rosa. I have a crush on Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa, Zelina Vega, Queens girl, absolutely. New York, I respect her. Very, very attractive. Aleister Black married her, lucky man. But I have something about Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa is like legit likable to me. I don't feel that way about Zelina Vega. Like you talk about hanging out, talking, bullshitting with somebody. That would be Thunder Rosa. To me, that wouldn't be Zelina Vega for me, despite us being fellow New Yorkers and Queens people and blah, blah, blah. Nah, Thunder Rosa is more relatable, I think.
Yeah, you know what? I would have chose Zelina Vega, but after she cut that promo on Zoe, Shayna, and Sonya, like I could just picture, like if I like piss her off at all, she'd probably just cut a promo on me and make fun of like my fat stomach and my little dick and everything like that. Just make me feel like a little tiny like troll.
Well, we didn't have to know you had a little dick.
I don't really. I'm not saying I really have that, but I could just like when she was talking about their big foreheads and stuff like that. I could just picture like, well, you know, Anthony, and I'm like, oh god.
Well, let's be honest. Everybody can find something for everybody to make fun of.
Yeah,
like
I think Thunder Rosa would do the same, but at least she would probably say it in Spanish, so I wouldn't understand it.
I just think she's a cool chick. If you watch, I watched her YouTube stuff and her interactions with fans. She's just cool people. She's just like
Thunder
cool
Rosa's
woman,
absolutely cool, man.
She's cool, man. Yeah.
I noticed he chose Saraya twice. Saraya or Rhea Ripley?
Oh, then I go with Rhea Ripley. I didn't really want to pick Saraya, but Rhea Ripley.
I probably would still go with Saraya. I don't have like this big crush on Saraya. I want to make it clear, but
no,
I don't know. Rhea Ripley, I don't know, just a little too intimidating for me. And he's got one more, and he says, "Thank you for 20 years of great shows, DT and Kev."
Thank you.
This one might be the hardest one of them all. Liv Morgan or Tiffany Stratton?
Ah, that's a good one. Jeez.
That's tough.
That's a tough one.
I think I have my answer.
I'm gonna go. I'm still gonna go Liv Morgan. Plus she's
yeah.
I'm gonna go Liv.
I think Tiffany Stratton make you go shopping. Like you'd have to like spend like too much money on her. Liv Morgan seems like someone that, you know, you just, I don't know, like let her bake.
Liv Morgan's a Jersey girl, and I actually am friends with someone who went to high school with her, who's in a female fronted band from New Jersey, who knows her very well. And she's also Italian. She's Italian New Jersey, which is similar to Italian New Yorker. With Tiffany's more Midwestern kind of girl, a little bit younger, more into the athletic shit side of it. Liv is more into the entertainment side of it. With Tiffany's more into the athletic side of it. So clearly, it depends on what floats your boat that way. And you know, looking at the guys that look who her boyfriend is. I mean, I think Liv is single now, but Tiffany's lives with fucking Kaiser, Ludwig Kaiser.
You know what? Liv Morgan comes off as someone that if you came home from like a hard day's work, she's like, look, I made dinner for us. And I think Tiffany Stratton would be like, I thought we were going to Ruth Chris Steakhouse tonight. Like she would like insist like we got to go out to like nice fancy restaurant, you know, like every day. I think Liv is a type that would probably like cook for you, like take care of you at home. I don't think Tiffany would do any of that.
Again, like I said, whatever appeals to you as far as from their looks to their personalities to what your perception would be, because obviously we don't know a lot of these people, if at all, other than what we see. We only know what we're allowed to see or candid interviews or whatever. So we don't even know who's what behind closed doors. We could be way off, but it's just what they put out there to the
this is just lighthearted talk. We know nothing about them.
We know it's fun.
Yeah, it's just lighthearted fun, everybody. But thank you.
And like I said, but we promised we would answer any of these questions, so that's why we're
answering. We answer everything. We don't care. Shout out to Starfighter 88. Happy Sunday. The daily reports have been outstanding. Thanks again for giving us more content. Wrestling is on fire right now.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate that. I tell you, wrestling it feels like on a different level. And I think when they go to Netflix, just that fact that they could be that much more edgier. I don't think it's going to be dramatically different because wrestling is doing so good right now. Why would you fuck with it? You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to make any major differences, but I think, you know what? You know what I think the biggest difference is going to feel almost immediately? I think Pat McAfee is going to curse. Because Pat McAfee likes to curse, and I think that might be the biggest difference on the surface. I mean, there's going to be a lot of subtle changes, but I think Pat McAfee's vulgar language, you might even hear Michael Cole once in a while go, holy shit! Like, I think we're going to hear that.
Yeah, I think it'll be language. I don't think they'll literally be like the live sex shows like Edge did with Lita. They might have more sexuality and more stuff like that, but I don't think there'll be anything so over the top that people are going to freak out about it.
Yeah, Relaxing Ghost, why would you say the stock is down? The TKO stock right now is at $117 a share, and it's up 36% in the last year. If Vince wouldn't have sold this stock, Vince would have a couple of $1 billion more right now. The stock is the highest that it's been. I mean, they're on crazy. The reason why you don't hear it is because most of these websites only report it when there's doom and gloom. So, I understand what he's saying. My apologies, Ghost. He means the overall stock market. Actually, you know what? Yeah, you know what? He makes a really fucking great point. The overall stock market has not been that great, yet TKO is doing spectacular.
Okay.
Yeah. So you are right. You know, my apologies for kind of misunderstanding what you were saying. So, but thank you for that. All right. Bernard with a 10 spot. What's with this revisionist history with John Cena being the greatest of all time? I am 28 and hated his guts during his reign. It was boring, Hogan-esque, and I know hundreds of people who stopped watching at the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, who was this, Bernard?
Bernard, yes.
Bernard, it's the same thing as I said before, the Roman Reigns haters who some 8 years ago called for his release. I mean, think of the concept now. I'm not going to say the podcast, but one podcaster actually said they should consider maybe this isn't right for him. Yeah, that would have been one of the colossal. That would have been up there with picking Jack Perry over CM Punk. Because people seem to hate the term "let things play out," but there's some things play out for months, some things play out for years. But the John Cena thing, I don't get either because the same. I feel the same. I felt there were times even when John Cena was in the main event years ago, whether it was Mania, SummerSlam, whatever, that I was like going and doing other things besides watching the main event because he bored the shit out of me. I actually found Hogan at least to be a little bit more exciting as a main eventer back in the 80s and 90s. That's anything could happen. Cena to me was as limited as Hogan was, as maybe a slightly better than Hogan in the ring. I don't get now the love affair, maybe because now we look at it almost like with Roman Reigns. He dominated television. I don't say he came to work when he wanted to. That's the way his contract was built up. And he made the amount of appearances that he was required to make. That's the way WWE wanted to keep Reigns strong. So you can't put it on him that he came to work when they asked him to and stayed home when they asked him to. Cena did come to work all the time, but I always found DT, I don't know if you agree with me and some people in the chat room, Cena to me is disingenuous. When he went in England and told England how great they were, when he went to Canada and told Canada how much love he had for them, I just find him disingenuous. I think he's just a wordsmith of corporate babble, where he says what the people in the back want him to say. Just like when he's telling Canada how amazing they are, I'm like, oh, dude, suck another dick on someone else's fucking time. I don't want every town you go to is the Arizona means so much to me. I think he's disingenuous. Do I think he's disingenuous with Make-A-Wish kids? No, because you'd have to be a pretty big cocksucker to be disingenuous with dying children. So let's put that to the side. That's not what we're judging John Cena on. So everybody has that clap back at what I'm saying. That's a silly thing. Who's a hardened prick when it comes to fucking little sick kids? There's people in C Block who will shed a tear if you show them a sick children video. Guys who are serial killers will start crying. So I don't want to hear that. We're talking about his presence in wrestling in the arenas, on the card, and cutting promos. He's disingenuous. Even when Miz was making fun of him years ago with Maurice, where John Cena had rules. Rule number 2 about dating me. Rule number 3. I'm sure that's what he is in real life. I know he's married now, but his relationship with Nikki Garcia was gross. I just thought that whole relationship was gross. The TV show was gross. They came off gross. I don't even know if I could say I like John Cena as a human being. And that ridiculous with the jorts and the stupid getup that he wears. I look at him and I'm just like, Even when he came out that time, like, I'm going to go get a drink. I stayed extra long at the sink pouring water until he was off my TV. I had to watch his promo because I have to talk about it on the show. But even see other podcasters, no names mentioned, just suck the D of this guy. He's in the conversation of Mount Rushmore. If you want to force that, sure. But should he be? No. Absolutely not. He is a corporate guy. He is a yes man. Everything you guys, a lot of you guys in the chat and girls seem to say you hate is that he's a corporate kiss ass. He's the worst kind. If you want to go with a person who wasn't a corporate kiss ass, make Steve Austin your fucking GOAT and your fucking number one on Mount Rushmore. If you're all about placating to audiences, being fake, and fucking wearing a getup that for a 16-year-old and you're 50, then John Cena's your guy. I know it's like a probably unexpected for some people to hear me say this, but other people have heard me criticize John Cena before. I'll take Roman Reigns over John Cena any fucking day. I put those two next to each other. As a guy, I'm just like, this guy's cool. This guy's a herb. Reigns is the cooler look. Cena's a fucking herb, and herbs attract herbs. Yeah. So it's like Reigns is clearly the cooler guy. You know, so even if I polled women, who do you like? This dude right here, one who looks like Aquaman, or this herb? Be like, oh, this stud guy right here with the beard. So I don't get Cena's. But when people say could possibly be number one on Mount Rushmore, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They make fun of Kevin Nash, the 5 or 7 moves of doom or whatever they say he has. I think Nash has more in his repertoire than John Cena has. So yeah, man, I didn't expect to have a rant on Cena, but
no, it's okay.
Was he a factor? Is he a factor? Absolutely. I don't like him. That doesn't mean that he's not a factor. Does he sell merch? The little kids like him? Yeah, but I am shocked when I meet any middle-aged person who fawns over John Cena. I don't get it because he's not really for you. He's for the kids. I get he's for the kids. That Rey Mysterio's for the kids too. There are certain characters that are for the kids, and that's fine because during me and DT's era, there were wrestlers for the kids too. The Bushwhackers, even though that's kind of funny because the Sheepherders were not for the kids, right? But the Bushwhackers were for the kids. So you have characters for the kids. A lot of people felt Andre the Giant was for the kids. Maybe not. Clearly not when he turned heel. But that whole Mount Rushmore, greatest of all time, what a jerk off that is. And even Michael Cole, I don't think he believes that. I mean, who's the greatest of all time? Is it Austin? Is it Rock? Is it Hulk Hogan? Is it Macho Man? Is it fucking Ric Flair? I mean, first of all, DT, how can you have 10 greatest of all times?
No, I think, every time this is brought up to me, I usually say you got to go by generations because I think, Bruno's generation is different from Hogan's generation, which is different from Cena's generation, which will be different from Cody's generation.
Rock,
I look at it like this. In my opinion, if Hogan didn't turn out to say the shit that he said about John Graziano and use the end term and have Hogan knows best and, just a lot of stupid things that came out over the years, I think Hogan would be looked back at as almost like the Babe Ruth of wrestling. Not great in the ring, but Hogan helped bring wrestling out of the, as Triple H would say, out of the, the tiny little arenas and stuff like that. I think Hogan in the 80s allowed wrestling to get to heights that had never been before. And that once that became outdated and Jerry Springer came in and, just going against authority and Girls Gone Wild and Ultimate Fighting. That's when Steve Austin came in. And I think, I think you needed the cartoonish Hogan kind of outdated good guy versus bad guy in order to make Hogan and Rock and the Attitude Era so good. If we didn't have this corny era before it, the Attitude Era would not have been able to be as standing out as it is. The reason why so much more money is made today, it's not just comparing what money was 20 years ago to now. It's just everything is more money right now. You could go to a fucking cheese company and say, oh, it's the highest selling cheese of all time. You know, but 20 years ago, cheese was $3 a pound. Now it's $17 a pound. And you can't turn around and just use inflation and say, well, 20 years ago, cheese was $3 is now worth, it would only be worth $7. So, right. And I know it's a bad example, but as far as Cena, I think the only reason why people say it is because they're living through it. And I also think the reason why they say that is because once the Attitude Era came and went, wrestling had a big problem. And how do you build?
What about the ruthless aggression era? I mean, with Batista and
the ruthless aggression era was good, but the problem was that was kind of like purgatory. That was like in the middle between. It was in the middle between the wrestling fans that were really digging the Attitude Era was starting to get older, and once ruthless aggression came and went, now you had a lot of wrestling fans that were saying, you know what, wrestling ain't what it used to be. It's not the Attitude Era anymore. And wrestling started to really decline. I think people forget, you know, even though Raw got an 8.1 rating one time, WCW still scored 3. So wrestling combined got numbers that you just can't even explain at times. So I think Cena, the reason why people look at it is because once you got past the ruthless aggression era, you kind of had to build the future crop of wrestling fans. And Cena was that one that got so many kids into wrestling. And now 20 years later, those 6 and 7-year-olds are now going bonkers for Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. And then at the same time, you have kids today that are into the Rey Mysterios, a little bit into the John Cena. That's the reason why John Cena still wears neon and hats and jorts and everything. It's not because, oh, why change the gimmick? It's legendary. No, it's because he still has enough appeal that little kids of today can click to it, you know.
But DT, can I ask you a question? And the chat room as well too. Isn't it always about evolving your character? Hulk Hogan, going from red, white, and blue, take your vitamins, say your prayers, to the evil Hulk Hogan, NWO. Undertaker constantly evolved and changed his character. American Badass, good example, bouncing back to Ministry of Darkness, blah, 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 and, you know, vice versa. Fucking Roman Reigns changing his character from sucker and succotash to a stoic face, badass heel motherfucker who dominates the fucking Fed for the last 4 years. You have now Ric Flair cut his hair, changed things up. He was very similar a lot, but most people did. Macho Man with the robes and the whole thing, then being the Macho King, then changing it up and wearing the hat and the different outfits, going to WCW, slicking his hair back and putting on a muscle shirt, having a whole new look. Don't the top guys always find a way to Mick Foley? How many different characters did he have?
Yeah.
Why is John Cena the exception of the rule to never evolve his character, put on the jorts at all times, never come out in any kind of different, try something different, have a different look, grow a beard, grow a mustache?
I'll tell you why.
Mutton chops. Why the same haircut, same fucking look, same shorts, same sneakers, and same shit? Why is he given a pass to never evolve?
Because I think a lot of those other people, as they got older, they were no longer appealing to kids. John Cena looks the same now than he did pretty much 17 years ago. So if he does,
almost 50 now, though.
Right, he's almost 50. But if he wears the neon and the colors, and if you look at his shirts, they're all cartoon stuff.
Oh, The Rock too, by the way. Yes, the chat's saying The Rock definitely evolved.
Yeah, Absolutely. The Rock evolved.
Yeah, well, definitely evolved. So Cena, is he the exception to the rule?
Yeah, I guess he is like the one that, you know, that WWE feels, you know what, kids from 18 years ago were appealing to him. So if he does kind of the same thing now, you know, he could appeal to some of the little kids of today. And he appeals to adults now because they feel, you know what, he's been around for 20 years. He's, you know, I was never a Cena fan other than Thuganomics. But
I like Thuganomics for that 2-year period of 2002, 2003, when he was feuding with Eddie Guerrero in that parking lot match on the cars.
Yeah, the parking lot brawl.
And him with Undertaker, where he was digging the grave and he was
pissing on his stone. Yeah,
that was good shit. That when he had B Squared, as silly as that was, when he had the henchman guy, and then he had Jesus. I liked that 1.5-2 year period, and then it seemed like by 2005. I was just done with this guy and
Yeah.
have been ever since. For me personally, you know what I mean?
I started to really appreciate Cena when he got the IC title and he was doing those challenges and he helped put over Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and others. And the only reason why I say that, even though he won those matches, he was doing a lot of work in those matches and he was doing moves that we didn't see his entire WWE career. And I was like, all right, he's actually working his ass off, in these matches. And I think it got an appreciation from some people. Do I think John Cena is the GOAT? No, I don't think he's the greatest of all time.
No.
I think, it's you go by generations. And for me growing up as a fan, I put Hogan, for the last generation. I put Austin for the, around the 90s to the 2000s, put Rock possibly arguably in there, but I kind of put Austin before Rock because Rock was kind of like just a 2-3 year deal, even though he was there longer. But if anybody goes back and looks at his peak, it was not as long as you think. Steve Austin kind of reminds me of what Reggie Jackson used to be on the Yankees. Everybody calls Reggie one of the greatest Yankees of all time. Reggie was only here from 77 to 82. It was only here 5 years.
Also, when they say Austin never changed, yes, he did change his character. Austin became a comedy character.
Yeah, riding down with the
sing-along with the cat with Curtis. Riding down. Yeah, Austin became a killer. Austin was a stone-cold killer wrestler and then was singing songs and doing silly gimmicks when he was with Deborah. In the back, every skit was comedy. So that is changing your character. Because if he didn't, he would just be a killer all the time in a gray area heel babyface. He became a full-fledged comedy character at one point. So that is changing your character. And also another one who changed, obviously a guy who evolved and changed, mask on, mask off, corporate. Kane was another guy who completely changed his character.
Yeah.
So I think it's the majority rules, basically. It's very few exceptions.
Yeah, and thank you, Garth. The U.S. title and section also. Thank you. U.S. title with Cena, not IC title. I'm sorry, my mistake. But I don't put John Cena as the greatest of all time. I think, if you watch wrestling long enough, it depends on how long you're watching wrestling. 10 years from now, people are going to call Roman Reigns the greatest of all time. Mark my fucking words.
They're already doing it. I already saw that. I think there's already a channel dedicated to it.
And 15, 20 years from now, Cody Rhodes will be looked at as the greatest of all time. It's just going to keep evolving. Oh, well, I'm not saying that
LA Knight might be the greatest.
You know what? Dave LaGreca will say, Cody Rhodes is the greatest of all time. You watch, All right. Before we go into more super chats, let's go to the chat room a little bit. And I want to give a shout out to Stone Hot 007 because he posted this very early tonight. And I know the answer already for you, but I'd rather you tell it because it's cool. Have we ever been to a WrestleMania in person? If so, which ones? And was there ever a WrestleMania that we did not go to in person, but wish we did go to?
No, I've never been to a WrestleMania. I've only been to SummerSlams. If I could have gone to a WrestleMania, I would have made the trek out to Toronto, Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, 1990. If I could go to one, that would have been
Nobody Moves.
Yeah, Nobody Moves, Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse Ventura. Yeah, 1990, the famous one that Edge and Christian were at as little kids. Me and DT were not that much older, maybe 5 years older than Edge and Christian in those seats in Toronto. I would have made the trek out to Canada. Me and my brother had talked about it at the time in 1990, but me and Draper ended up at our friend Keith Matera's house watching it with about 20 people. And by the way, DT, the ratio was 18 out of 20 cheering for Ultimate Warrior.
Nice.
So that was our ratio there. That was like being at a concert at that fucking house. And people were going crazy when Warrior won. Those are the fun times where. And by the way, even the Hogan fans, we were just razzing them, but there was no nonsense. It was such fun that everybody had fun. We all went out to eat afterwards and had a great time. Those were the days where you did not take wrestling seriously and just enjoyed it.
For me, I never went to a WrestleMania either, but for me, the first one that I wish I would have gone to is the first one because I went to garden shows, only a few, but I went to a couple of garden shows in 84 and 85. First Ridgewood Grove Arena in 83, and then, 84, 85, my parents would let me go to the garden once in a while. I wish I would have been there for WrestleMania 1. I marked out when Billy Martin was going to be there because he's still my favorite manager of all time. God rest his soul.
Oh, nice.
But also WrestleMania 3, because I would have loved to have gone with my grandmother, because she was such a Hogan mark. Listen, she was alive when Hogan beat Andre, and she loved Andre. And when Andre ripped the chain off of Hogan and Roddy Piper's like, you're bleeding. My grandmother almost broke the TV. She thought to the day she passed, she thought wrestling was real. And she passed right at the time that Slaughter turned against this country. But I wish I would have been able to take her to WrestleMania 3. That would have been mine.
Oh, so your grandmother was around for the whole 80s?
Yeah, she died in 1991. She died in 91,
okay.
yeah.
Nice.
We were talking about the women earlier, and Chris Segovia, I'm sorry I didn't mention this earlier, but I'll throw it out there since you put it up there. Jada Parker or Sky Blue?
Oh, Jada Parker.
Yeah, for me, it's Sky Blue. She seems cool, even though a lot of people thought she was an airhead. But I still choose Jada Parker. Jada Parker for me just came out of nowhere, and I was like, whoa, she's got some looks to her. So
yeah, she's hot.
Yeah. Juan wants to know what's our wrestling guilty pleasure. His is rewatching WCW 2000 and 2001.
Mine was incessantly watching the Roman Reigns clip from all different angles last week of SummerSlam. I'll confess, I watched about 30 clips of different angles of Reigns coming out from SummerSlam last week on YouTube. I did. That was my guilty pleasure. Because again, it was infectious, and I so this is how I know. Again, people who admittedly were not fans, but saying, yeah, how could you not? Even people in my Facebook who I bullshit argue with back and forth about guys like Reigns, Cena, people like that. They have different takes. I have different takes. But they're like, gotta admit. And everyone would say the same thing. Gotta admit. They lead off the gotta admit with me. So I gotta admit, not a Reigns fan, but that was kind of goosebumps. I was like, gotta admit, it's like not liking a baseball team, but seeing them beat another team in the series that you hated more. I'm like, yeah, if whatever way you put it, you'd be very hard pressed, I think, to find anybody to say that wasn't thrilling. And if you do,
that podcaster,
that person, that person's on just a hater on another level, So it's like you can't take them seriously if they're gonna piss on that.
For me, my guilty pleasure has always been watching XPW, only because I was the privilege to work for them for about a little less than a year. I mean, ECW to me is not a guilty pleasure. ECW is cool, but XPW, a lot of people still hate it, corny, hardcore ripoff of ECW, but it was cool to be, involved with it. It was cool to get to know people that worked there. It was cool to become friends with some people, and also I'll never forget the day. I mean, I don't remember his name right now. I'm drawing a blank, but I'll never forget when they came to the East Coast and they started producing TV shows for, I don't know, it was Channel 44 or whatever it was in Philly at the time. But I've told the story 1,000 times where we had to drive the tapes to Philly, in order for the shows to air. Me and Slash would drive to Philly, and one of the nights was the infamous night where Bischoff brought back the World Heavyweight Championship and handed it to Triple H. That was in 2002. But, the thing was, the guy, a lot of people may not know this, but the person who produced ECW television that lived in White Plains, I think it was, or Yonkers, Yonkers. The guy who produced ECW in the 2000s up until 2001 also produced XPW. So we went to his house in Yonkers, and we went into his basement, and it was just surreal to see all his video equipment, and he's splicing in this and editing this, and we're watching how it all comes together. And he was the same guy that did ECW. So I was just fascinated to see how everything was put together. So that's my guilty pleasure. So NJ wants to know who's likely to return sooner, Alexa Bliss or Nikita Lyons?
Oh, yeah, Nikita Lyons better return soon. I just fear she's only 25 and has had 3 major injuries already. I'm going to go with Alexa Bliss. I don't even know personally. I don't have any information, or I just have a feeling that when they do some releases, Nikita Lyons will probably be on the list. I'm going to go with Alexa Bliss returning.
I think Alexa Bliss at the Royal Rumble. Nikita Lyons could return sooner, but I'm impressed when she does all her kickboxing and everything. But I keep saying to myself, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just
getting hurt. She keeps getting injured. DT, she's out more than in.
Yeah, I kind of think I think Alexa Bliss at the Royal Rumble. I don't think she's going to be part of the Wyatt Six. No matter that could happen a year from now, but I don't see it. I just say keep it the way it is. Chaos says his guilty pleasure is watching the Territory Days. That's great. That is great because a lot of territory stuff, a lot of people, it's not required to be a wrestling fan to watch the Territory, but it is fun to look back and see wrestlers. My old guilty pleasure was watching AWA and realizing like how much was or even Georgia Championship Wrestling and seeing like some of the stuff with Piper and Flair and then like you go to WWF and like, oh, I remember when they did that here. Oh, they didn't do it. That's not original in WWF. Like it would be done elsewhere, and they bring it to WWF, and you kind of redo it.
Yeah.
One Fall wants to know our thoughts on the Olympic Games from Paris. Do we like it? I did not watch an ounce of it.
Didn't watch an ounce of it. Not because of the whole thing of the debacle with the intro and the Catholic Christian, bashing, whatever you want to call it, however you perceived it. Had nothing to do with that. I just haven't watched the Olympics since Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding controversy back in the day. That was 94. Last time I watched any of the Olympics was 94. That was it. I haven't watched since.
Honestly, the only thing that really caught my attention in this Olympics, I mean, I know everybody knows about the Imam Khalif. I mean, it was a story.
DT, can you take the floor for 1 second? I got to dip for 60 seconds. I'll be
absolutely.
Right back.
For me, guys, the Imam Khalif story was something that we covered because, Logan Paul made remarks and Pat McAfee and others, but chat room's got to help me with this. Who is the female track and field star? I think her name was Swoboda. She comes from a different country, and all I know is I went on Twitter to see, all right, how's the United States doing with the medals? How are people doing, in different competitions? And just over and over and over again, everybody was posting video of this one female runner. I think the last name is Swoboda or something like that. But the reason why they kept posting her is because everybody was focused on her body and her butt. And some people may know who I'm talking about. Like after she won a competition, she was like giving like a shout out. She gave a nod with her left hand. And then she was like, oh, no. And then she did it with her right hand. And I Show Speed is going to have a race with her. Anybody know who I'm talking about? I Show Speed is going to have a running competition with her. And I tell you, I'm not a fan of I Show Speed, but now I'm starting to understand why this guy gets play in the WWE and why this guy's getting play everywhere. You get a big social media following and you have all these places looking to book you. It is kind of mind-boggling to see where this guy's name is popping up. Okay, thank you, One Fall. Iwa Swoboda, Swoboda. Guys, just go on Google or Twitter, probably Twitter because at least you'll get some video out of it. Look up Iwa Swoboda from Poland. And every time I would check to see what's going on with the Olympics, there was always somebody posting a video of her. And I was kind of enamored with her because she looks like someone who is going to be a little bit of social media, influencer down the line, not just an athlete. So, but as far as the Olympics themselves, I really did not care. It's not that I don't care about our athletes in the United States. It's not that I don't care about the Olympics. They're very, very important. Just when I saw the opener and, what they did to mock, Christianity in the Last Supper. And listen, this is not a political or religious rant right now. All I'm going to say is this. When I saw that, my issue was this. Why mock any religion? Why mock any religion? There was no reason for it. And that's why it just turned me off for the rest of the Olympics. And I just, I hate when you gotta take something that everybody has their eyes on and try to make political statements out of it or religious statements. So yeah, no, I was just saying why I didn't watch the Olympics. Like when they did the opening ceremony and they mocked Christianity. It's not that I was mad about that, but I was just saying to myself, like, why mock any religion? There was no reason to mock any religion. And that's just was like, you know what? Not even going to bother.
Yeah, because they can get away with that. Because if they did that to the Muslim culture, they'd be murdered.
Yeah.
So it's a easy target, kind of low hanging fruit, kind of chicken shit stuff that is to me. And quite honestly, I just find it tedious to watch the Olympics. I have a hard enough time sitting through 3 hours of baseball as it is. You know what I mean? And that's something I want to watch.
Yep.
But yeah, the Olympics just not for me. I know people who enjoy. I have friends who have watched it from start to finish and are all sad to see it come to an end. It's whatever floats your boat, man. Some people are into the Olympics. Some people think John Cena's Mount Rushmore. We all have our opinions.
Yeah, and some people think that Roman Reigns returning at SummerSlam was a major mistake. So,
Jesus.
Shout out to Roger Rubio, big friend of the family. He's at work, so he's going to catch a replay later. But he wanted to let us know he's meeting Kurt Angle this coming weekend at the Fresno Grizzlies baseball game. What questions would we ask Kurt if given the chance?
Roger, ask Kurt, because he thanked him at the Hall of Fame, a guy who never gets any flowers, who's a big independent guy who died, and talk about a guy ahead of his time, supposed to be the next Rob Van Dam. Sadly, it didn't happen for him. How much of an influence Steve Bradley was on his career, who helped him in Memphis and helped Kurt Angle get over. He feuded with him. It was Kurt Angle's first feud as a babyface, and Bradley was the heel in Memphis. And he actually thanked Steve Bradley at the Hall of Fame, which I thought was classy because no one talks about Steve Bradley, who trained a lot of people. And just ask him how much Steve influenced his career, and just even tell him that you acknowledge Steve Bradley. I think that'll put a smile on Kurt's face.
Okay. For me, it's not a question, but if you really got to relay something from us, big shout out to his wife. I crossed paths with her online a couple of years ago. People may remember when Kurt Angle was in TNA and having his big time problems outside of the ring. We really, really took him to task. And, I still got all those audio clips of what we said. And when he met her, she turned his life around. I mean, I know we've all seen the documentary about her, but
yeah, she seems like a sweetheart.
She is so awesome. I mean, I've only talked to her a couple of times, a couple of years ago, but she was just very, very cool with me and appreciated, just the return of supporting him and how hard he worked to clean his act up and to be the father for his family, the husband for his wife. She really, really, I mean, when they did that documentary and they said that she truly is the one that turned everything around, for him, it's not a joke. I mean, what's
her name, DT? Gia?
Gia.
What's her name?
I think it's Gia.
Is it Gia?
Giovanna.
Yeah,
I think it's Giovanna.
Giovanna. Giovanna. Yeah, she seems like a
Giovanna
sweetheart. She
Angle.
seems to be pretty. I think she had a podcast for a bit. I'm not sure if it's still on with.
I think did she do it with Rebby? She did it with.
No, she did it with Kim Orton.
Oh, that's right, Randy Orton's wife. That's right. That was right.
Kim, yeah, she did it with Kim. I don't know if it's still on though. I
haven't seen any videos about it lately, but a lot of you out there, believe me when I tell you, she is a pretty damn cool person, and she's definitely deserves a lot of credit and
I love
props.
Kurt Angle.
Yeah,
I love Kurt Angle.
We're very happy that Kurt Angle was able to turn it around, seriously, and still to this day.
Definitely.
Mark Rush, thank you, Mark, for the 10 spot. He would like to know, would have it been better if Gunther beat Cody instead of Damian Priest? And after Rhea wins, who will she face after, and about merging the tag teams, the tag and the women's titles? Okay, let's put this together. He wants to know, what do we think about merging the women's championships and the tag champs? After Rhea feuds with Liv, who does Rhea feud with next? And should Gunther beat Cody instead of Damian Priest?
No, we need more titles because then it gives an incentive to people to look at other people as more over than maybe what they are. Having a title, even though the more the person makes the title, you could believe the title makes the person or the person makes the title. But there's something more at stake, DT, and on the line when someone's wearing a championship and has a match. I think
Yes.
people will be more invested because something's on the line than just two mid-carders going at it for the fuck of it. You know what I mean? Imagine how much more important it would look
But
if Cross and Woods were going at it and Woods was, a champion of some sort or North American champion. There would be more emphasis. Oh, this is more important than what it is. It's a visual. It's just it stimulates the brain thinking, oh, there's a title on the line. And that's why you get the crowd into it and the crowd saying this is awesome. They very rarely do this is awesome when there's no title on the line for people or it's not a match of importance. There always has to be matches just for the fuck of it on the card. DT, Lord knows me and you back in the day saw a lot of just for the fuck of it matchups.
Oh, yeah.
At Madison Square Garden cards, right?
Sure.
And some of them turn out to be pretty good. I mean, this guy coming in, they team him, he's got to go 20 minutes with Johnny Rods just for the fuck of it. But it's a necessary thing. Even in today, even on TV, there's some just for the fuck of it matches on Raw and SmackDown every week. Because you're like, what's the point of this? The point of it, the point of it, DT, is getting them on TV. That's the point of it.
Yeah.
Now as far as Rhea Ripley, I don't want them. They have just enough titles now. I don't want them to add any more, except a mid card Intercontinental U.S. title version for the women. I think they need to add.
Yeah. I'll say a couple of things. You got to leave it on Cody for the foreseeable future because he's got to have a run, not on Roman Reigns' level, but a substantial run enough that it feels like, it feels like it continued, the elevation of the championship, after Roman Reigns held it. Gunther on Raw being a champion is perfect. As far as who Rhea Ripley faces afterwards, your guess is as good as mine. For all we know, Charlotte Flair can end up coming back to Raw, even though Andrade's on SmackDown. So I think we have to wait a little bit on that. Raquel Rodriguez is supposed to be coming back soon. We're hoping. And I agree with Kev about the titles, but I'll add one thing to it. For anybody that's going to immediately say, well, DT, how could you all say that when you see what AEW with all their titles and it doesn't mean anything? There's a difference. AEW creates the titles and gives it to all their major stars as a prop. So whenever they're on TV, they try to think that it feels more important because a title is being defended. When you see, like, we were talking about this, I think, yesterday, WWE's going to bring out a women's speed title. And yeah, it's a bullshit title on Twitter, but you know what? Zelina Vega's going to have that belt. Michin's going to have that belt. Dakota Kai's going to have that belt. So it gives someone the incentive, and there's a lot of fans out there that feel, that some of their favorites are not getting championships. You look at Chad Gable, you look at a few others. So, titles matter when it feels like somebody's earned it, not somebody given to somebody simply to make it feel like their matches are more important. There's a big difference there. That's the biggest difference about AEW. Swerve Strickland might be the only person to me that is a champion right now who actually worked hard. And I'm not saying the other people did not work hard, but you feel that person worked and worked and worked in AEW and got to the point where he earned that world championship. Everybody else, it's been given into them as a prop to try to boost up the value of their matches. MJF, when he was world champion, he earned it. You felt like it got to that level, but a lot of people today, Okada gets a belt right away, Mercedes gets a belt right away, this person gets a belt right away. Yeah. It doesn't feel important. So thank you for that. Mark also says, why is it that no one in AEW is working out physically? They fat. Who's fat? I don't think they're fat. I just think that you see a lot of people over the last couple of years and their in-ring work still feels very sloppy. I don't know. I just, Kev, I'll tell you something really quick. You'll get a kick out of it. Medusa just did a podcast about maybe 2 weeks ago. And she told the story that she was going to be at AEW for a day or two. And Dustin Rhodes asked her if she would do a little, little camp, little seminar, for the women there.
Right.
So she says, yeah, absolutely. Anywhere I could help. So Dustin Rhodes tells all the women on the roster, look, Medusa is going to be here, Tuesday or Thursday, whatever it is, Wednesday, at 12, 1 o'clock. It's optional, but, anybody wants to show up and, she'll just, you can pick her brain, do this, do that, do this, it's open to all the women. So she shows up and nobody showed up. And she goes to Dustin Rhodes and she's like, where is everybody? And he said, oh, it was optional. Nobody showed up. And I think that kind of summarizes,
that's horrible.
You know what I mean? Like you see the footage of Undertaker, hanging out with the guys in NXT, working out with Damian Priest from that documentary, which Kevin and I will cover tomorrow. Medusa shows up in AEW and none of the women show up. So.
No, when you say it's optional, listen, when you make it mandatory, that you try to, encourage people to go to these things, but you would hope that people have the same go get them and kind of the same gusto and the same worth ethic to improve their game and their off time. And maybe it is kind of a generational thing because listen, not everything from mine and DT's generation is great. There were lazy people back then. There were unmotivated people back then. Because Gen Z people from ages 17 to 27 get tagged. Hold on a second. Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
God bless.
I was trying to hold back a sneeze.
No, it's okay.
And they get tagged as like lazy, unmotivated, entitled, blah blah blah. And that, of course, that's not everybody. You don't want to put a blanket statement on a whole generation of people. But I think that there is a younger contingency of 20-something females. And if they're like, oh, fuck that, it's my day off, I'm not going to go and wrestle, I'm good to go. I mean, I respect Medusa, but the way you show respect, DT, is to show up for those things.
Yeah. I mean, me, I as crazy as this sounds, guys, I've told this story before, and I promise, for everybody tuning in, this is not a story I've beat to death, but I worked a show once for, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. What the fuck was his name? Holy shit. I feel horrible for forgetting his name. Mr. Big. I did a show for him in Spanish Harlem. And I ended up, doing a little managing stuff. And Sandman was on the card. And I swear to God, everyone, this is not an exaggeration. Mr. Big is still alive. He's still a wrestling fan. If anybody talks to him, ask Chaos. I know you've talked to him before. Ask him if I'm lying. Sandman, about 2 hours before the show started, Sandman went into the locker room and said, guys, if any of you, want to talk, about anything, any questions, you wanted to, go over something, I'm here if you need me. And I swear to you, about 15 indie guys, most of them, just pretty much nobodies. I was there, 15 guys showed up and they were all asking him, what do you think about this? How do you like this? What do you think about my look? And this is Sandman. This is Sandman about 17 years ago, not in the greatest condition. This was right around the time that Lou Albano had died. And, he got drunk at the funeral or the party or whatever it was, or his birthday. Sandman got arrested, but he was there and he loved getting all these people picking his brain. He's like, yeah, do this, do this, do this. I think you should change this. I like this. I think this is great. And that's Sandman. And Medusa, my God, if I'm an up-and-coming women's wrestler, even if I have it, she's like, how do you just not show up? I can't believe it. So.
Yeah, and I just think, someone who's donating their time, whether it's a paid gig or not, again, the way you show respect is, showing up, even if you show up there for a little bit. I mean, just to no show, or maybe just feel, and I'm sure Medusa feels a certain way about it, but she's very outspoken too, so I'm sure she feels a certain way about it. I know the way she probably feels, but just
she's disappointed.
When your team, but DT, when your team is already in last place, so to speak, it kind of, need every kind of motivational thing you get, and you don't take opportunities to better yourself or at least show you're a team player. Ironically, that came up big time in my regular job yesterday, people being team players. And people who weren't, the bosses want to get rid of. People who are, the bosses want to promote. It's attitude, DT. It's attitude. It has to do with attitude and work ethic, and who's really in the trenches in this, and who is just buying their time till their contract runs out so they can go somewhere else. You got to depend. You have to have some dependable players. And Medusa, one of the top wrestlers, female wrestlers there is. Already a Hall of Famer, but you could learn a lot from someone like that, and she doesn't get to do that too often. So you'd figure, change your plans, show up. You know what I mean? Oh,
Yeah.
I got to go to a party that day. Come down for 90 minutes. Come down for an hour. Oh, it's inconvenient. I think this is why WWE is where they're at, and this is why AEW is where they're at.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah. I mean, we hear the stories about CM Punk showing up at NXT, and we hear about wrestlers, even Undertaker showing up for the big guys that time. I mean, it's just a different vibe. Blazing Bolts wants to know, have we ever experienced ourselves personally at any paranormal incidents?
Yes, in 1982, I was in the 8th grade, and it was before we were going to high school that fall. Me, a couple of my male friends, about 4 of us, we lied to our parents, and we said we were staying over each other's houses in Brooklyn. Where we really went, DT, was to Cedarhurst, Long Island, to a summer house. Yes, people have summer houses in Cedarhurst. My friend Chris's parents had. Chris stole the key, and his father was a cop, ironically enough, and Chris became a cop too. He stole the key. We all went. There was 5 of us, and we were downstairs. We slept in the living room. They had it was like the Von Erich's house. It was like Chris was one of 7 brothers and sisters, by the way. So they had multiple bedrooms, 3 family layer house. And we all slept in the living room because no one wanted to go to the top floor. And there was a haunted thing about the house. And I don't know what was going on there, but we all slept in the living room, and it was creaking and popping and all sorts of stuff going on. And needless to say, DT, we packed up shop and we went home the next morning. We planned staying there till Sunday night. It lasted till Saturday morning because we were just freaked out by this house. And after Chris telling us this ghost story, we don't even know to this day if Chris set us up to fuck with us. And we were young kids. He wasn't that smart enough to do that. But we were hearing noises and all sorts of stuff going on with that house. And we lasted one night. None of us slept. We got on the Long Island Railroad and came home the next day, fessed to our parents that we lied. And my father beat the shit out of me. But other than that, but in a loving way. DT, it was a good kind of beating. But back in the early 80s.
I'm only doing this because I love you.
Just not being able to sit down for 2 days will teach you. But yeah, we put ourselves in jeopardy. We were 12 and 13 years old, going, out to Long Island. Totally something horrible could happen to us. No supervision and stuff. We could have set the house on fire. We don't know. But again, the house was making real weird noises, and my friend Bobby's like, I'm going home. I'm going home in the morning. You guys come with me. Well, I'm not staying with just Chris. So we all 4 of us went home, and we fessed up, and I'm coming down the block with my bag and stuff. And I just looked just tired and dejected, and we had already gotten busted anyway. DT is the interesting part. My father knew. He was just waiting for me to confess.
Oh,
he already knew because one of the other parents had called him and knew where we were. And when I fessed up. But anyway, the punishment wasn't the point of the story. The story was we were so freaked out that we wanted to go the next day. I mean, one of my friends was literally just totally freaking out and wanted to like literally sleep outside. So, and that was in Long Island. And as you know, DT, that was when the Amityville horror was big.
Oh, sure.
The late 70s, early 80s weren't that far from Amityville. But that would probably be it. I don't have any other stories other than 1982 story. That's about it for me. How about you?
I got 2, and believe it or not, they're actually right around that time also, maybe 2-3 years before that. They're very quick. One, my father, and believe it or not, I got to do a Google search one day, and I'll show you guys a picture because it's legendary. My father had this weird statue of an Italian, a famous Italian fighter from like the 14 or 1500s. I don't know who the name is, but he wore armor and was like a legendary Italian fighter. And he had it in his basement, and the statue was about 6 foot high. And when I got to like 11, 12 years old, my parents let me move into my basement. Yes, I lived in my parents' basement. But it was cool because at that age, I felt like I had my own apartment. So I was pretending like I'm cooking for myself and everything.
Yeah, it's cool. That's actually cool.
Yeah. So one time, like I would always get creeped out when I would go downstairs and see this statue. And I swear to God, one time I was scared and I looked at that statue and I swear to God, I thought the statue like turned his eyes at me. And I turned the whole statue backwards. And I remember like 2 or 3 days later, my mother's like, why is the statue facing the wall? And I was like, nah, it was just like moving it out of the way to dust it. And she's like, oh, you got scared. And I freaked out. I honestly thought the statue like stared at me, like turned its eyes.
Oh, God.
And the other one that I had, and I think I might have mentioned this before, I must have been like 11, 12 years old. And my parents used to have an above ground pool in our yard. And I was in the pool once with my brother and this guy, John, that I'm still friends with to this day. And we were swimming in the pool. It was during the week. And my old bedroom, before I moved downstairs, used to face the yard. And we were in the pool, and I looked towards the house, and my grandmother was smiling, waving, watching us, swim. But she was in my bedroom, like looking out the window. So I looked, and I was like, "Hi, Nana, I'll be out in a little bit." So we were swimming a little bit more, and I saw her, for a few moments. And I get out of the pool maybe like a half hour, and I walk in the house, and she's not there. And I said to my mom, I'm like, where's Nanny? And she's like, she's not here. She don't come here until Saturday. And I was like, no, she was here. And she's like, no, she wasn't. I'm like, I saw her. She was looking out the window, waving in your bedroom. And my mother's like, why would she be in your bedroom? I'm like, I don't know. I swear to God, to this day, on a stack of Bibles, my grandmother was in my bedroom. But
really?
She wasn't there. Yeah, she wasn't there. It's a God honest truth. That is a true story.
Oh, DT, you want to know something funny? The claim to fame of who lived or grew up down the block from that house that I was staying in 1982 in Cedarhurst. Remember the football player Lyle Alzado?
Oh, yeah, Lyle Alzado, sure.
Yeah, Lyle Alzado grew up in Cedarhurst.
Wow, I did not know that.
That was the claim to, yeah, my friend's father was friends with Lyle. So, yeah.
He's the one that had that wrestling TV show.
Yeah,
he was the Masked Maniac.
Yeah, the Masked Maniac, learning the ropes. Lyle Alzado,
learning the ropes. I remember the Road Warriors being on that show.
Remember when he came back like dieseled out, like Joe Piscopo, and he was all built, and then he had a brain tumor a few years later. But Lyle, he was he was on the Oakland Raiders when the Oakland Raiders were like a real bad.
Oh no! Oh no! I hope original in the chat. I hope that's just the troll post. He just wrote, "Rest in peace, Lex Luger."
Is that true?
I hope that's not true, guys. Could someone, like we don't like trolling in the chat, and like. Oh, wait. Original says he just found out on Twitter. Well,
I'll find out.
Wow, this is kind of a blast of the past, guys, because there's been many times in the 20-some-odd years of us doing this, we'll be live, and then tragedy happens while we are alive.
I see a post from Lex Luger from 15 hours ago.
He was on with Conrad. They were talking about SummerSlam and...
Yeah, no, I don't see anything. I don't know where he got that from. I don't see
I hope it. Yeah, please don't troll, man, because we don't tolerate it here. It's okay. Thank you, Revamped. It's not true. We'll let it pass this time. But if you were to put rest in peace Lyle Alzado, that's fine. But exactly, we don't. Yeah, no, don't.
He was just on a podcast. I mean,
he was. Listen, I swear to God, tomorrow Kevin and I got to talk if he was worth $50,000 for the match with Yokozuna. So thank God Lex is still with us. But Rojo Bear wants to know what's the worst customer service we've ever experienced.
Worst customer service I've experienced, probably some takeout places that I've ordered from over the year here in this area, Queens, New York. And I never blame the delivery guy, just wrong food, slopped together, just certain places that you ought to take out from. You got DT, you probably agree, and a lot of people in the chat, when you find a takeout place that you're on, you call in the order, you're cool with the girl answers the phone, or hey, how's it going? Like, you're going to be treated well. But when there was one takeout place we called and they said, "Who this?" on the phone, and I was like, this is not going to go well. Who this is not going to go well. But I think takeout places, when your food's slopped together, they don't seal the stuff. There was a time, not even a few weeks ago, I tried a new place, and the thing itself wasn't even fully sealed. I mean, it just was a sloppy job, bag all soaking wet with sauce. And the delivery guys to deliver that. I mean, if I'm a delivery guy, I'm like, I can't deliver this to this dude. So it's not a particular franchise or anything, but it's individual places of ordering takeout over periods of time that just were indifferent to the way they serve their food. And I never go back. I stick with the ones that treat you right and want to consume the same, will be willing to give them the same food to themselves that they give to you.
Yeah,
right, DT?
exactly.
Like, not that you're like some animal, like, yeah, just serve whatever slop you can to these people. Not with the prices that people are charging today, DT, for takeout.
Yeah.
And with the tip, for my God, people are making in tips. You're practically paying what you pay for the food and tip. So, yeah, man, bad takeout service, that's intolerable to me. And I never go back. I never give them a second chance to fuck me up.
I'll explain this very quickly. I was a subscriber to Time Warner Cable, which later became Spectrum, for 20 years. And, the cable bills started getting really, really expensive. And every some odd years, they would do a contract for a year, whatever it is. And they give you a certain amount, for the phone, internet, cable at the same time. And my bill started going up to like $250 a month, $270 a month. And I would call them every bunch of years and I'd be like, look, is there anything you could do? And they're like, well, we could give you another year contract, this and that. So a couple of times it got to the point where I would say to them, look, I only watch 2-3 channels. I don't need all this. I'm going to cancel my service if, if it can't, nothing could be done. And they would always come through. So anyway, 5 years ago, my bill was almost $300. Now, I do need a bigger, powerful internet connection for the shows, so we don't have issues. And thank God, for the most part, we don't. But even like cable TV was too high. I still have a regular telephone here that I don't rarely ever use. And I called them up. I said, look, cancel my regular phone. I don't need it. Downsize my cable to the smallest thing. And they're like, look, there's really nothing we could do. So I said to him, I'm like, look, I've been a customer of yours for 20 years. I said, I only watch, like at the time, I think I said Fox News and USA Network. I said, I don't need all this other stuff. I was like, is there anything you could do? And they said, no, there's nothing we could do. So I hung up. Anyway, finish up the story. I go online and they got a package, $99 a year. 300 megabyte internet speed, digital telephone and cable, $99 a year. Call them back and I was like, look, is there any way I could get this package? And they said, no, it's only for new customers. And the way the person brushed me off really pissed me off. I'm like, you know what, cancel my service. And, like with Sirius Satellite Radio, they'll usually say, look, maybe we could do some. When I say cancel my service, the woman came back and said, thank you for being a customer for the last 20 years. Like really, really nasty. And I was like, fuck you. And I canceled my service and I ended up getting Verizon Fios for my internet. I got YouTube TV, which I still have now. And literally 5 days after I canceled my service, I get an email from Spectrum. We want you back, $99 a year. I told them to blow me.
Wow.
So they just did not care. They just did not care. And I had it for 20 years. And I gave them so much goddamn money for no reason. And that's pretty much how they treated me. So fuck Spectrum. Yeah. To this day, I'll never go back to them. Jim Cornette in the chat. He thinks Sasha is bald under the wig. Now, I don't believe that's the real Jim Cornette, but some people have thought that Sasha Banks is bald. I don't believe that.
It's possible. I mean,
she could be bald in other areas.
Maybe she has alopecia or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's possible. I mean, her wig game is pretty tight, so I mean, she's okay.
Hey, I just Jim Cornette's trying to provoke trouble over here. Honestly, whether she has a wig or she doesn't have a wig, I think we all admit that she does have a great body, but it's just the attitude and that lisp. I can't get past the lisp. So thank you, Jim Cornette. Tyree Jones with 5 spot. How do we feel about Roman Reigns getting his title rematch at the Royal Rumble? And The Rock costs Roman Reigns the title, setting up Roman versus Rock at WrestleMania 41.
Read the first part of that again, please.
How do we feel about the idea of Roman Reigns getting a rematch against Cody at Royal Rumble, but Rock costs Roman the match, and as a result, that leads to Roman versus Rock at WrestleMania 41. So we would get Cody versus Roman at the Rumble, and Rock would cost.
Here's the thing, guys. Roman doesn't need the title anymore. He already has the record. He's the record holder. He's the greatest heel champion of all time. as far as holding a title goes. Greatest steel champion WWE, WWF, WWF history. He doesn't need the belt anymore. Doesn't need it. Much like Piper didn't need a title. Andre didn't need a title. Really, Ultimate Warrior never needed a title. Not Macho Man didn't need a title. It just is an accessory. Reigns right now is here to beat on people who called him out, which is the bloodline. And there'll be other people who will be in his way. And he's going to be a top guy competitor. There's nothing they can do with him winning the belt again that makes it epic at all. It's just him winning the belt. We talked about it before, for the fuck of it. He's not a for the fuck of it guy. He's an attraction. He's back here to settle scores. And that's it. And I still believe that Roman Reigns is one Marvel or DC superhero buddy action movie pick away from leaving. This guy has movie star written all over him. Look at this fucking dude. Why is he not in the movies already? You know what I'm saying? He's better. He looks better than Batista. And if Reigns has any even kind of half-acting credibility that Batista have, he'll be mad famous in the movies. And because people, he looks too much like Jason Momoa. Honestly, I think he looks more like a more masculine version of Jason Momoa. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's dumb. He didn't copy Jason Momoa. Reigns looked like this for the longest time. But I think that he's just one movie picture away from getting a role where he's gone. So don't invest in him as the champion again. There's other people. Reigns is here as an attraction, and he doesn't need the title. And I don't think he's going to have another title. He will feud with Solo. He will feud with Jacob Fatu. He will feud with The Rock. And that's going to take him into next WrestleMania, DT. What more do you need from him?
Yeah, and he's been in movies. We're talking about lead or close to the lead.
Lead. I'm not talking about bullshit side appearances. I'm talking about leading man. Look at the guy. I don't know how he doesn't have a major agent right now. He doesn't have the top agent. Maybe he does. We just don't know.
Yeah.
But he's an attraction. He's an attraction.
Yep.
You know, he's not here for titles.
Totally agree. Thank you, Tyree, for that. Who said this about Bischoff? I think this is actually a good one. Oh, yeah, Roderick Howard. What do we think of Bischoff's comments about Mercedes' promo skills? He basically said they suck in AEW. Listen, I know Bischoff baits people, into checking out his shows with even some bad takes, but I think we all agree that Mercedes Moné, her promos in AEW have been terrible. And I wrote this on Twitter a couple of days ago that Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks without WWE creative is like that woman Ingrid Andress without auto-tune.
Yeah.
That's a good one, yeah. I mean, it's just you could see that no one is. I get this impression, and I've been told this from a few people that work in AEW, like they sort of say it but don't really say it, but the vibe is that nobody like really has, like, Tony Khan is so nice. And I kind of put this more, and I hate using this term, but I'll just say it. I think he's just afraid. I think he's afraid to go up to a major star and say, look, I don't think you should be saying this. I don't think this is very good. I don't think we should do this. I think he's afraid to offend some of his larger-than-life stars or the ones that he thinks are who they are. Because, like I said, whether there's Jennifer Pepperman writes Mercedes' stuff or not, it's not good. And you could see that there is no WWE creative. I've always said this. Sasha Banks in WWE was a character. That was not Justine Mercedes Renato. That was a character. And it feels like in AEW, they're letting her play like let her feel like it's an extension of herself, like how she perceives her character should be. And it's not working.
No, I agree with you. I mean, you're right, Tony. He probably doesn't want to upset her and knows that she's kind of flighty. I mean, let's be honest, she took a ball and went home in WWE. The whole reason she's in AEW is because she never came back after she took that last ball and went home. So he doesn't want to rock the boat with her. But her promo ability is pretty bad. I watch the promos. I mean, I tell you guys I never watch AEW. I don't, but I watch the clips. I watch all the highlights. I watch the highlight reel. It's like a sportscaster. You got to kind of know what you're talking about. I'm not going to not watch it because I don't like AEW. I don't like a lot of things. I still watch it anyway. But I don't enjoy it is really what it more is than not hating. I don't really hate anything. But yeah, her promo, like I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, she needs that WWE machine behind her and the writers from WWE, and she might have gotten a writer who left WWE and wrote for her, but it's a different setting too. Also, DT, it's a different kind of setup,
Yeah.
different situation, different fans. You could say all wrestling fans are alike, but they're not. How they're reactive in different ways, because you could say, hey, Kev, put Roman Reigns in fucking AEW. All those fucking people are going to be chanting OTC. Probably, maybe not. I mean, again, it's not really one size fits all in our community. I think we all know that at this point. If it was DT, there wouldn't be all the back and forth bullshit between certain podcasts and fan bases and the toxicity on Twitter if we all were like-minded, right, DT? And we
Yeah.
all kind of respected each other's hustle and respected each other's thought process. Clearly, no, because half the community is always insulting the other half of the community. So we're not all in this together, guys. We're all in this together here in the DTKC family, but we can't speak for everybody else. You know what I mean?
Before we get to Kavan's question, I'll say this about Adam Copeland, and this is people I think will agree with me on this. Adam Copeland, when he first went to AEW, it felt different. But where it ended up falling in line, just like all the other bullshit there, was this. When you have a lot of people acting really, really just horrible on social media, and then, people are fighting back and you have all this back and forth on social media, instead of Adam Copeland, like trying to convince AEW, like, look, stop feeding into it. Stop trying to make it seem like, like WWE's the enemy, you want to embrace all wrestling fans in that. He goes and does this rah-rah speech saying, I love AEW. I love this. And, the fans this, and this is the greatest this and this and that. And I'm like, man, nobody wants to fucking just confront like that really whack, demo that they have that just is really like toxic online. And instead of addressing the toxicity, it's let's just do a rah-rah speech and make Tony Khan feel like, like this is the most funnest place to be. And I kind of like, I know why. I realize that Adam Copeland is there just for a paycheck and just because he still wants to wrestle and WWE feels that he doesn't have the work that he used to.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. It's like people like, this is one big happy IWC community, but it really isn't. It's very divided. And it's not necessarily DT, just AEW, WWE fans divided. A lot of New Japan fans feel they're in their own category. We have some people who are followers of us who admittedly don't watch either, but will only watch New. So it's like there's a lot of indie people who just go to indie shows and have no interest in watching AEW, WWE. But it's the discourse that you have between each other. Is it civil? Is it respectful? And as you know, DT, X Twitter is not the measuring stick of class for wrestling fans. If you want to really hate wrestling fans, guys, stick with X and Twitter. Yeah, exactly.
Kavan says, how different would Hogan's run been if he had a manager like Bruno did or Backlund did? And if we could have picked any manager for Hogan in his early run in the WWF, who would we have chosen?
First part of the question again?
Okay, I'll reverse it. It'll actually, I think it'll make it sound easier. If Hogan had a manager early in his run in the WWF, like 84, around that time, who would we have chosen and how different would his run have been if he had a manager?
As a babyface have a manager? Because he had Blassie as his manager as a heel in the late 70s, early 80s. Babyface manager. I wouldn't have wanted Lou Albano to be his manager when Lou turned babyface. I didn't think that worked. I wouldn't want Jimmy. I didn't even like Jimmy Hart as manager in WCW. I never felt it worked, Jimmy Hart. I know he was friends with Hogan. I never even pictured Jimmy Hart as Hogan's manager. I sometimes have to be reminded. Hogan with a manager, I would say it would be a valet like Elizabeth or someone. I don't know who it would be, but it would be a female maybe. But I can't picture any of the male managers. Even if Bobby Heenan turned face and managed Hogan, I don't know if that would have worked, DT. It wouldn't have worked.
I don't see Hogan having a manager at that time. It just wouldn't have worked. I mean, it wouldn't have hurt Hogan because Hogan would still be able to do what he was doing and cutting his promos the way he was and still be in the larger than life star. But I think the manager would have put it this way, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. we were wrestling fans when Backlund had his whole run from 78 to 84. And I will tell you, Arnold Skolin did nothing to boost Backlund's.
Walked him to the ring.
Yeah, he just walked him to the ring. He didn't do anything. So he had
ruined
that
the towel. He put him in the hole, though, DT.
Yeah, well, yeah. Backlund got his revenge in 95, so.
No, that's true, but Skolin is most 94. Famous. You guys probably are historians. In 83, when Sheik beat him, Iron Sheik beat him for the title, Skolin was the one who threw in the towel.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly, if you summarized Skolin's run as manager for Backlund for 5 years, pretty much, throwing in the towel is really the only thing he did.
Literally, yeah, like to make him lose the title, and I imagine, right? He's known for his end, not his run and beginning, right? Yeah. Exactly.
I think Buddy Rogers did more for Jimmy Snuka than Skolin did for Backlund for 5 years.
I think Rogers was more of a presence. I agree.
Yep. Thank you for that, Kavan. This one I think is more funny. Dirty Niner, 415. How would Tony Khan book Darby Allin versus Zeus if that match ever went down?
Jeez, that's hard. That's thank God that can never happen now. Zeus is no longer with us. Not thank God that Zeus is no longer with us, but thank God that match never happened.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody want to see. I mean, Debo versus Darby. I guess they could put the book it as, right, guys? Debo from Friday. Everybody's seen Friday the movie with Ice Cube.
Yeah.
His character Debo. So Debo versus Darby, if they can get to use that name, if we could do like a fantasy booking, if that was back, he was still alive and well, and they can have him as a guest and everything, still in shape. They could book it as Debo versus Darby. That would be kind of a good gimmicky kind of promotion, right?
Yeah. By the way, Deuce just used Chat GPT, which I know a lot of you know. That's like the AI stuff. And he asked Chat GPT, well, who are the babyface managers for 1984? And the answer they got back was Arnold Skolin, Miss Elizabeth, Jimmy Hart, and Hikuleo.
Hikuleo, oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Honestly, if anybody remembers Zeus, when Hogan would hit him, I think Hogan hit him with a chair once, and Zeus just no-sold it. I think Darby would just hit him with a bunch of weapons, and Zeus would no-sell it. And then eventually Darby would fucking nail him with something, and Zeus would go down, and that would be it.
Hit him with a skateboard or something.
Yeah. This is from Kevin Milwaukee. When the Texas Tornado won the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam 90, do we think the original plan was for him to carry that into WrestleMania 7? And if so, how would we have booked those 7 months? How would we have booked those 7 months if Texas Tornado won the title?
Won the world title?
No, the IC title.
Well, he won the IC title. He was champion for how long? Just 3 months, right?
Yeah, it was only about 3 months. So what would we? I don't know. Maybe feud with Mr. Perfect a little bit longer.
I tell you that clip when he beat Kurt Hennig and did the tornado punch, and Kurt Hennig sold the fuck out of it,
yeah,
and pinned him. The crowd popped like Roman Reigns came back. That was Kerry. I mean, Kerry always got a good reaction from the audience. He was just a magnet for women and kids, and I think guys liked him too because Kerry reminded them of like their kind of, fucking athletic older brother. Kerry was non-threatening to a lot of people. He was a pretty boy, but he wasn't. Male fans didn't resent him; they liked him. So Kerry always was over everywhere he went. But what that pop he got when he pinned Kurt Hennig was just off the charts. I mean, that's one of the things I go back and watch every now and then, and I do the same thing in my mind. What could have been with this guy? But Kerry was big into the drug culture at that point. He was fucked up a lot. WWE kept him as long as they could. They really did value him, but they didn't really want him dying on their watch. And lo and behold, a year later, not even a year later after his release, it wasn't even 6 months, he killed himself in February of '93. Had WWE extended him 1 year, he would have killed himself on WWE's watch, which would have been horrible. The whole thing is horrible. I mean, the Iron Claw movie, I still, I can't go back and enjoy that because it's so fucking depressing.
Yeah.
But DT, I think that had he not been messed up, forget the foot. I think if that's another thing, DT. My God, if he should have came out and showed people that he was an amputee, you know how much good he would have done for people? Yeah. Showing that like he could do something, and WWE could have made him and endorsed him as
major inspiration for those
major
disabled?
Inspiration. DT, there was so many people who came back from Operation Desert Storm who lost body parts in 1990-91. If you remember, we were in a war in the early 1990s.
That's a tremendous point. You could have had him go visit the troops Wounded
Yes,
Warriors.
I mean, what a fucking missed opportunity that was for fucking. They weren't even thinking like that before, and also then Vince McMahon started to get caught up in the Zahorian, Dr. Zahorian thing, and the fucking steroids thing was a year away from happening with the feds. So it was just ill timing. But yeah, Kerry could have had a longer run, but they didn't. I think someone said it in the shoot interview, where it was Jim Duggan. I can't remember who it was, but that Kerry would have had a longer run, but they didn't trust him with the title. And the other kind of title back then was very important, as you
Yeah.
remember, DT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I mean, a lot of people don't know, like, the prescription fraud is really what did Kerry in, because he was facing jail time. And, look, if he would have remained in the WWF, believe it or not, he probably would have been able to get all the painkillers that he needed. But once I know that sounds terrible for some people, but, think about it. There was a lot of stuff going on at that time. And if he would have remained, and, look, he was also doing cocaine. I mean, if anybody goes back and looks at matches, you'll see him touching his nose repeatedly. You see things, and, afterwards you're like, wow, yeah, he's really like, you could see that he's messed up. If he would have just been a little bit cleaner, he probably, even though, taking too many painkillers is not good for you, but when he was no longer wrestling for them and he's out on the street, technically, and he needs prescriptions and he's so far gone and can't get help for it.
He wrote some out himself, DT.
Yeah, he was writing them. Yeah.
Do you know what he did? Because look at Kerry Von Erich. He would charm nurses and doctors' offices who had crush on him because he was a good-looking dude. Everybody knew who he was. And he would kind of charm these women, not with any sexual favors. He would just flirt with them and get them to give him, or he would swipe the pad from them and write out his own prescriptions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how sad and desperate and pathetic it got. I mean, there's nothing admirable about that, but that's what he utilized, his looks and his fame, to get female adulation fans who worked in the medical department to try one, maybe even unbeknownst to them, he would swipe it from them, take it from their bag, take it from their desk.
Yeah.
That's an addict. That's an addict at their worst. There's people much bigger stars than Kerry Von Erich have done nefarious shit to get their drugs. We all know that, TT.
Yeah.
Much bigger people than Kerry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a shame.
Because they're desperate. Yeah, they're desperate.
Yeah, and I'll say this, if the Von Erichs were 20 years later, I mean, who knows? With the help that people could get today compared to the 80s, we may not have lost numerous members of that family. So just sad.
Well, DT, I want to point out someone in the chat, Maggie Lusk, is saying that both her mother and father were amputees.
Wow.
That Kerry would have probably been an inspiration. Yeah, both her parents were.
I mean, I never thought of it like that, and you are so spot on. I just think back to 1990 in Desert Storm, on the heels of that, and having him visit Wounded Warriors and saying, look,
Yep.
you look at what I'm doing and look at how you can do it too. And
I'm literally wrestling in the ring. Yeah, I'm wrestling.
Yeah.
I came back to I work for WWE. I'm on the road and I'm a champion. And so being inspirational, that would have been a headline making thing. But he was so in the throes of being an addict that WWE didn't trust him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Bernard, thank you very much, my friend. Been listening for 14 years. Have he heard Kev talk about Kevin Sullivan at the time? Okay, what matches Kevin Sullivan would you look up? I want to just chime in with this first. I'm not speaking for Kev, but I'll just say this. If you're going to watch Kevin Sullivan matches, you got to watch the storylines and the promos and the feuds to lead up to it. Because, 80s wrestling is not what wrestling is today. And a lot of the ground game is intensified at that time. And that's the focal point. I'm not saying that Kevin Sullivan was just a boring ground wrestler. All I'm saying is that when you watch the promos and watch the feuds and see the character development and see what led up to some of these bloodbaths, it makes the matches feel that much more powerful. You can't just look. It's not like today where you could just say, oh, give me a good Will Ospreay match, and you give somebody, like a match that's 5 stars. Back then it was all about the psychology and the character and the feuds and the everything to lead up to the individual matches. If you just watch Hogan versus Andre, other than a tremendous, amazing turnout. I think a lot of people younger of today would say that match wasn't all that great. You know, what was great about that match? A body slam? You know, you got to look at the 1 year build that led up to that to get to that point. Every little thing. I mean, when Gorilla Monsoon's son only counted to 2, you know, we thought everybody thought he counted to 3. I remember us putting it in super slow-mo, trying to see, did he really count to 3? You know, did he really count to 3? I mean, you can't just look at individual matches and say, oh, go to this, go to that, go to this. I don't know if you feel the same way, but for me, you know, Kevin Sullivan matches, you know, if I had to pick one, I would say Chris Benoit 1997. And by then, Kevin Sullivan was way past his prime.
He was. If I would say his matches versus Dusty Rhodes and Barry Windham in the early 80s, 83, 84, when he started up the Army of Darkness satanic gimmick. Great matches with Dusty Rhodes. Yeah, what a blood feud that was. The Asian Spike match that he had with Dusty. He was never a great technical. Kevin was a little stout, like brick shithouse built guy. You know, he was like a real only 5'7", maybe even 5'6".
Yeah.
If we're being kind, he was 5'7". But 240, 250 pounds on that frame of just bulkiness, you know, of just, he was like a real, much like Greg Valentine, he wrestled almost like a dinosaur, like where it was like trying to hard to get defense in on him or take him down. That's why you didn't see anybody ever manhandle Greg Valentine, DT. You ever notice that? Or anybody manhandle Kevin Sullivan?
That's true when you think about it.
You notice that? They never, I mean, name a match where Greg Valentine was completely shown up and manhandled. Same thing with Kevin Sullivan. They were like these little stout, like fucking brick shithouse, fucking, you know, low to the ground guys who would come at you ground game. And you never really saw them get their ass handed to them. You'd see them lose and get pinned, but you never saw them get manhandled.
Yeah.
Because they were so low gravity guys. When you watch Kevin Sullivan, you're like, boy, Sullivan got in a lot of offense on everybody, including Hogan. Yeah, he just did. Valentine, same way. They were not guys who got jobbed out, so to speak. See, if you go by jobbed out, DT, just by getting pinned, we're talking about guys who'd get the shit beat out of and then pinned. Sullivan and Valentine were never like that. They were always getting the best of it. Even that dog collar match, DT, with Roddy Piper, Valentine got the best of Piper throughout most of that match.
Yeah, Piper got fucked up in that match.
He did. And if you watch, Kevin Sullivan got the best of Benoit in that match a lot, and he got the best of Dusty Rhodes. But Sullivan in the end would eat the pin, but he did in a way where Sullivan was like, so, you know what basically he was? Sullivan was like a pit bull dog, hard to put down. You know what I'm saying? Like, it took a lot to put Kevin Sullivan to the pin, especially in his early days. So guys, watch Florida, Sullivan versus Blackjack Mulligan, Sullivan versus Barry Windham, Sullivan versus Dusty Rhodes, Sullivan versus who else was out there that time? Mike Graham. Even I got to give Mike Graham credit. Him and Sullivan was similar height, even though Sullivan had about 40 pounds of muscle weight over Graham. They had some classics. So, yeah, I mean, you're not going to see, you know, 1 hour Sting versus Flair kind of excitement with a Kevin Sullivan match because Kevin is breaking rules and using a weapon in most of the matches. At some point, every match of Kevin Sullivan, guys, look for him to go in his trunks and take out a foreign object, as they called it back then. Almost every fucking match, Sullivan pulled something from his trunks.
Yeah. And the crowd would go nuts because the referee didn't see it. Yeah, the referee didn't see it, and he would use it, and then he put it back in his trunks. I mean, I love the way he did it. I love the way George Steele used to do it. I mean, George was more comedic, though, because George would use the foreign object, and then he climbed the turnbuckle and put it in his mouth, and he's looking the other way, and the referee can't see his face. And, you know, you didn't have Titantrons at the time, so you couldn't just look over at the Titantron and say, wait a minute, what's that in your mouth? So, yeah, I tell you, that's why you don't see wrestlers using foreign objects like you used to, because there's Titantrons everywhere. And, you know, it's not easy for a referee to miss it. And that's why usually when someone uses a weapon, there's usually somebody else at ringside to distract the referee. It's no longer where the referee's just looking the other way and then realizes, oh, shit, you know, like, and then you see the weapons. It's because of all the TV screens around now. So, and thank you, Bernard, for that 20 spot also. He would just want to congratulate us on the 8-month streak. Grew up with us in his ear, driving to school every day. When we broke up, he was stuck with the LaGrecas of the world, and he welcomes us back. So much love, my friend. Much love. You know, we don't have a personal hatred for Dave LaGreca. Not everybody that busted open is bad. Dave LaGreca
No.
is not even bad. It's just what people need to understand. We don't have anything against Sam Roberts. We don't have anything against Peter Rosenberg. We don't have anything against Dave LaGreca. But what you all have to understand that these guys want to appear on WWE programming. They want the big interviews. They want the exposure on satellite radio. And in order to be part of the WWE machine, you got to conform. You got to fall in line. You have to be the one to say, you know what? I think Tama Tonga should be in the King of the Ring final in Saudi Arabia. And yes, all three of them said that. You know, you got to go and say things that for us, we'd be like, what are you fucking nuts? That makes no sense. But because WWE's trying to build Tama Tonga at that time as a legitimate guy, you get these three guys to say that, and that's why their clips will pop up here and there. That's what they gun for. That is their audience. Our audience is a little bit different. That's why when Kev said earlier, we're not in competition with them, because what they do and what we do are two totally different styles and formats. There's enough wrestling fans to go around. And, so we have no personal hatred for any of these guys. You know, we just don't agree with, intentionally doing bad takes just to get attention. And, some of the other podcasters we talked about on Monday, tomorrow. Wait, guys, if you're in Discord especially, wait till you see the screenshot of something I put that someone did on Twitter just to generate 1 million views. Total disrespect to Bray Wyatt. Wait till you see it. It's going to surprise you who did it and what they said. So you'll see that tomorrow. That's a little teaser. We also got another 20 spot. And this is from Hollywood 55. He said, great show, guys. Just wanted to give a shout out to Kyle. Kyle, hope you're doing well.
Nice.
We're all pulling for you. And that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and boy, I'm not going to say it here, but boy, that story took a turn.
Yeah.
Of what was found out about the person who did it and the aftermath now, and then other thing that's happening now on the litigation side. That took a turn.
Yeah. Listen, I know that a lot of people that don't know the story is going to ask a million questions. We really can't get into it here. It's a very raw, personal story. But I will say this: a good friend of us and supporter of us forever was assaulted by somebody for no reason whatsoever. When you hear that's all we're going to say. If you see,
go to Patreon.
If you're a patron, because Kyle's more comfortable there because it's a very, very small community there. And most of the people there have been there for a very long time. But do you ever see those random videos online where somebody's walking down the street and somebody just turns around and just decides to wail on someone for no reason whatsoever? That happened to a very good friend of ours. And, he's recovering, but, there's a lot of ramifications coming out of this. And, it just sucks because you're the recipient of that. You don't know if you could trust people in the future. It's just a really sad situation, but Kyle, there's a lot of people out there pulling for you, and Kev and I are at the top of that list, and you'll get through it. You absolutely will get through it.
Yeah. So just so people know, no drugs weren't involved. It was someone made an assumption about somebody and just decided to go and dole out some sort of punishment on someone who they misconceived as doing something that they weren't. And not only no apology for it, there was the person who was with the person was encouraging the person to keep assaulting Kyle.
Yeah,
it was a sick thing. And now we find out the person has a very interesting job as a real. So it is not some ne'er-do-well drug addict who did this to Kyle.
No.
You wouldn't. Oh no. It's worse than that. You won't believe who it was. But you go to the Patreon. It's true. Kyle will respect Kyle's, which is he feels more comfortable in the Patreon where it's a private server community. Yeah. And believe me, this is not us trying to entice you to go. No, not at all. If you want to hear the story, sign up for the Patreon. Listen to my last show. Listen to DT's next show, and you'll see the whole story and get an update on it and stuff. Because it is, I think there is going to be some litigation and stuff happening. And me and DT don't want to jeopardize that.
Yeah, I'll give everybody an example or a similar story. This is not what happened to him, but I'll give everybody kind of like a good analogy or an example. All right, you're at an Italian restaurant. and the owner has a partner, or owner has somebody that works there, and he thinks that you're at the dinner. They're doing nothing, just eating dinner, and his partner or his friend thinks that you're looking at his wife. And he comes up to you and he's like, "What the fuck you looking at my wife for?" And you don't know what he's talking about. And he starts beating the shit out of you and really wails on you. And then they realize that, no, he actually wasn't the one that was looking at his wife. But then the owner's like, fuck him up anyway. Just keep going. It's a bad analogy, but it's just like, again, it's just someone who just totally randomly hurt somebody. And instead of just manning up and accepting that you fucked up, you kind of like double down on it. And it sucks.
Yeah, double down on it. I mean, that's the amazing thing. Forgetting, like an apology would be one thing, but then doubling down on it and feeling justified that you can go over and just put a barrage of punches in someone's face,
Yeah.
Who didn't do anything, and also take their property. That's another thing that was a side note of this, taking their property from them and thinking justified that you can, and you were completely mistaken about what your perception was. We're past apologies now. So now that's what I mean. I think it's going to go to possibly some serious charges and some people losing their jobs.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
We got one more super chat and we'll go back to the floor for a little bit. We'll go back to the chat room.
Sure.
Blazing Bolts wants to know any conspiracy theories that we believe in.
I believe Bigfoot exists. I really do. I think Bigfoot exists. Let me tell you something. Bigfoot, I was born in 1968. In 1967 is the famous, I'm sure you guys know about it because it's part of pop culture and American history. The famous Roger Patterson film of Bigfoot in 1967, walking across that creek bed in California. And Bigfoot phenomenon has never died down. Something that's can't be, there wouldn't, if there was something that was, it hasn't been proven, but also hasn't been disproven, because there is thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of wilderness, Alaska, California, Seattle, Washington State, that cannot be explored. You can't get a helicopter in there. You can't even and you can get a drone, but there's so many trees and forestry that drone wouldn't do shit. You're not going to be able to cut through all that stuff. Because people go, oh, they could fly drones through there. No, they can't. There's certain, we haven't even reached certain technology yet where we can explore certain areas in Alaska, in frozen state, in the frozen north, and even in the ocean. We've only literally explored not even 50% of the ocean. So you don't really know what lives in there. People laugh about the Meg and megalodon sharks and stuff and giant octopuses and sea creatures. I believe that there could be these things. Man doesn't know everything. I think we're just arrogant to think that we do. And we find different types of species all the time. And I think that there is something. I don't know if it's 9 feet tall and looks the way it's depicted in the movies, but I believe that something out there exists, and it's not a bear. We can't explain what it is. Thousands of reports every year. I don't know, but I do know this: they haven't disproven it, as long as we're proving it. So that's a conspiracy theory I believe exists, but I don't think it's a government thing. I just believe that we haven't been able to explore all the areas that we need to in the American landscape.
I agree 100%. And you kind of took the words out of my mouth as far as the aquatic aspect of this. I mean, someone in the chat, remind me the name of that ocean, that's like thousands of feet down, and we see these creatures that we've never seen before, and it almost looks like a science fiction film, a horror film. And, like only recently, they've been able to explore. I think they explored in the 60s. Or in the 40s, and then, Mariana Trench. Thank you, Michael Gonzalez.
Yeah.
If anybody Googles or looks up on YouTube's even better because you see video. You look at those aquatic, life, that aquatic life, thousands of feet below, the ocean. It's a horror film, and there's no light down there, and you see these creatures that it's almost like if you died and went to hell, you'd be surrounded by them. It looks like a horror film. And what I have always thought since I've been a kid was, if there could be that kind of creatures that far below, why can't there be those type of creatures up above the water? You know what I mean? I'm not saying like
no,
mammals outside of what I'm saying. Why can't there be Bigfoot?
No, there can be, and someone's saying they're in the Pacific. No, they're not just in the Pacific Northwest. I know a lot about cryptozoology. I've studied it since I was a kid in grammar school, and the Bigfoot has been sighted in all 50 states practically.
Yeah.
So that's why the Dakotas and Iowa, everywhere. It's not a Pacific Northwest thing. That's where the phenomenon started. But it's been spotted in every state, everywhere. It's been spotted all over the world. Very big sightings in Russia, which also has as much vast wilderness as American plains do. So I mean, there could be just pockets and pockets and pockets of undisclosed areas that man can't get to. We think we know everything, we don't. So I mean, that's the whole thing about someone saying it's like 98%. I don't know if it's that high, dude. I think it's more like 75%. It's more than 50, but it's less than 90. But it's just such a vast, 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 deep, deep, deep dive, no pun intended, for the oceans and for the forests and the terrains and the wilderness that we just don't know about. So I mean, you can keep your mind open to stuff. Maybe not in our lifetime, in mine indeed. Some of you younger folks, or maybe in your 20s, someday there'll be a headline where they found something somewhere to prove or disprove. But no, and nothing was ever proven a hoax before anybody died. Roger Patterson never fessed, and Bob Gimlin, who was on that expedition with Roger Patterson, Bob is almost 90 years old now, and he has never fessed up to that it was a hoax. So that's total bullshit. Somebody claimed to have been in the costume, and that was proven to be a fucking lie too. That guy has no evidence that he was part of that 67 situation. It was some big jamoke who claimed he was there. Bob Gimlin doesn't even know who he is. So
Yeah.
the guy who was with Roger still said, and still does the circuit and does all the like speaking engagements talking about this with scientists, and scientists are really kind of split. There's a lot of scientists like Jeff Meldrum, who's a real well-renowned scientist at Iowa State, and he is still on the idea that it absolutely exists. And they have done nothing. It's up to science to disprove it now, not to prove it.
Yeah.
So, and as far as what you said, DT, the ocean, that's another story. I mean, you're seeing
Yeah.
things that down there, like you said, in that trench, it goes so fucking beyond that. I mean, we don't
Yeah.
know what the fuck is down there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And you know,
And
look,
that scares people. It scares mankind to
sure.
not know everything. But I
Yeah.
find it fascinating to not know everything. You know what I
Me
mean?
too. And I look at it like this with Bigfoot. I mean, even though there's been a lot of sightings, it's strange how, you know, nobody seems to have their cell phones around these sightings of today. But what I mean by that is, you know, if that was Bigfoot in the late 60s, they could have died off over the last 50 some odd years. So,
Oh,
you
they
know,
could have multiplied. Yeah.
it could have multiplied. Absolutely. I think sooner or later, if there is a sighting, somebody's going to have their phone or something around, and then we'll see if it's authentic. But you know, because you could see it below the sea level, there's definitely has to be stuff above the sea level. It's just a question of where, and you know, and when we'll
It's
find
another
out.
thing, DT, real quick, because my friend lives in a real remote area in Pennsylvania, and she's convinced she saw another thing that's part of cryptozoology called Thunderbird, which is basically what's probably like 4 times the size of an American eagle. And these thunderbirds, they can literally carry off a cat or a dog or whatever. And they believe like the thunderbirds exist too, which are not necessarily prehistoric, but they're kind of a mutated bird that's probably 3 times the size of a vulture, and they're carnivorous.
Wow.
So that means they'll kill a full-grown dog, a cat, and this is in areas of Pennsylvania that thunderbirds have been discovered. There's been sightings, almost often throughout the years, but they literally look like a small plane, and it turns out it's a huge bird, and people can't explain what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Crazy. Tuxedo Earth wants to know our thoughts overall about WWE's attempt of revitalizing ECW in the mid 2000s. I mean, other than my friend Timmy being part of it, we wanted to like it. It just, was on Sci-Fi, and they tried to add that sci-fi aspect to it. I wasn't a big fan of it. I tried to like it.
No, it was doomed to fail because there was just little remnants of the old. It's hard to you can't capture lightning in a bottle twice sometimes. Just everybody wishes for that because it was like and not all DT, not everything ECW did turn to gold. A lot of
No,
it, some of
of
it was
course not.
shit. And some people benefited, some people did not become a big star out of ECW. Yeah, I mean, I think just people want to recapture what they see as the grandiose days and the good time days. Attitude Era gets brought up a lot. ECW in its prime, 96, 97, 98 gets brought up a lot. WCW when the NWO first started, that first 2 years were like almost flawless for WCW. It just can't recapture that shit. It's very difficult. What's going on now with Roman Reigns? We're not going to see this again for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Name the person who's going to come back who's going to get this kind of adulation. There isn't any.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The big pop, continuous big pops, and where everything is great and this is so great. It's moments of time that you just have to appreciate while they're happening, but don't expect them to happen again.
I'll ask you
They'll
this.
happen again, but with different people, DT. Not the same
Yeah.
people. Can't keep recapturing magic with people,
I want to ask you a question, and we're going to start bringing this home, guys, because believe it or not, we're actually at 2 hours and 40 minutes. I think we'll go to like 3 hours. I think that's fair, like
Yeah,
15,
we'll
another
go
15
3.
minutes or so.
That's cool.
I want to ask you a question. Not trying to take anything away from Roman Reigns, but I've always felt, that COVID is one of the biggest reasons why Roman Reigns was allowed to get to the tribal chief character. And what I mean by that is when there was nobody there in attendance, that empty arena match that he had, with no fan, with Jay, and the fact that we were able to have no fans, like trolling him or doing a what chants when he was cutting promos, and that time when there was no live fans there, it allowed WWE that comfort that, hey, he can, let's build this, let's create this, let's give him time, let's, do this, and we don't have to worry about the crowd going, what?
No, but they weren't really doing that because a year and a half before that, he revealed his name was Joe and he had cancer.
Right,
and everyone had a love affair with him. The Reigns hate tapered down at that point. It was tapering down, and he took a powder because of his condition that he was on stage talking about 2 years before.
Right.
He had already turned it around with a majority of the fans and got their respect and sympathy factor. COVID kicked in. He is immune compromised. He had to go home. He has 5 children at that point. Two sets of twins under the age of 5, which is unbelievable, by the way. So he had to go home. He commiserated with Paul Heyman, and that's how this whole thing came on. But it was never, and even I think Heyman has dumbed that down, where he was like, it was never like to get him to change, like, how do we get you over during COVID? It was like we were planning this. This was something that was in the plans for the longest time of him turning heel, and it just happened to be that happened. I mean, listen, COVID, they basically were thrown up against the wall and see if it sticks, I think, with anything and everything when you think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the only highlight of WrestleMania that year was AJ Styles versus Undertaker, and it was in an outside match that was pre-recorded.
Yeah.
So
my God, the editing.
Yeah, and look at Drew McIntyre, with the no fanfare, which everybody felt. Why 4 years later people still feel WWE owes Drew one. I think they've paid that receipt, by the way. I understand Reigns, with his speech a year and a half previous, revealing he had cancer and he had to take some time off, already got rid of the majority of the Roman hatred.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that's when it turned the corner for him. The most of that shit was before the speech of
right.
I have cancer, my name is Joe.
Yeah, I was just curious, your take on it, because I always felt that, if COVID never happened, it might have been a little bit harder of a path to get to, what ended up happening. I just felt that, the fact that they had that extra advantage helped them. I think it helped them in a lot of ways. But
I know. I mean, it's so weird to even say that.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a very
pandemic.
Thank God. I hope to God we never have to deal with that ever again.
Oh,
Even though
God,
COVID's still around, man. COVID is still around.
My boss just had it. She was out for a week and couldn't even talk.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, it's funny. People who are having COVID. My oldest brother, who never had COVID, not Draper, who's not my oldest brother. People think he is. He's my younger brother. I have another older brother. I have 5. There's 5 boys in my family.
Yeah.
And he had COVID for the first time. He ducked and dodged it for the first few years. Got vaxxed, never had it, and finally had it last month.
Wow.
And my brother's near 60. He's 4 years older than me. So again, my boss who got it at the club, one of the female partners, she never had it. She was healthy the whole time, and now finally succumbed to it. So yeah, I think people. I'm at the point, DT, where I barely know anybody who hasn't had it. I'm at that point. Are you?
I'm just a little surprised that they haven't been able to completely get rid of it. I'm just kind of still baffled when I hear people getting it. I mean, my wife's brother was just hospitalized maybe about a month and a half ago from getting COVID. And I'm like,
Did he
I
have
just
it
can't.
in the first wave? Did he have it?
Yeah, he did have it in the first
My
wave. You
God.
would have thought he would have built up an immune system, but I think he
Yeah.
just has a weak immune system. But, how many times do you have it?
Twice.
Wow. Yeah.
How
I
about
had
you?
it once and then I got it again, but it was weird because when I got it the second time,
Knock
I
on wood.
tested positive one day and then it
Mhm.
was negative the next day. So I wasn't going to go on Amazon and continue spending like $40 for like 3 tests. So I was like, all right, well, you know what? I feel better. And, within 2-3 days, I think I was okay. So
One of my other bosses, there's a 3-way partnership in the place that I work for. One of my bosses had it 5 times
unbelievable.
and has all the vaccines and the booster and still got it 5 times.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Speaking of crazy, Blazing Bolt sent this 5-spot in. He said,
Nice.
this is kind of dramatic. Let's be honest. Thoughts on the USA collapse from both a societal and superpower perspective. I kind of like compare that to AEW. Like, I wouldn't say that AEW's collapsed. It's still on TV. It's going to have a new TV deal that'll probably get announced at All In, which I will talk about in the next news update. I don't think USA's collapsed. I just think that there's a lot of problems. Our country could do a lot better. I just don't know when. I don't know, whether Trump becomes president or Kamala Harris becomes president. I don't know if this country is going to recover, anytime soon. It's just, it's messed up, man.
It's bad. It's so funny. A couple of weeks ago, they said turn the temperature down on the rhetoric and the name calling, and it only got worse. It never stops. Even today, they put out a picture of JD Vance at a Halloween party dressing up as a woman or something like that, and as a teenager. And now they're calling him trans. How's it trans when you dress up like a woman? But again, and then there's other these insults going back and forth with each other. It's as ugly as ever. It's going to be worse. It's 2 shit teams, and you got to vote for which shit team you're going to root for. All 4 of these people don't deserve any of our adulation, including Waltz or Vance. Some of them have some decent qualities about them, but they have more horrible qualities. All 4 of these people, I think the fact, and I think there's no disagreeing here, and this will probably make everybody happy, we all deserve better than those 4.
Yeah, you would think over the last 4 years, both sides. I mean, I understand Biden. They were going to roll the dice with Biden until they realized, fuck, we can't hide it no more. But even on the Republican side, you had 4 fucking years to put together something really good, and you didn't. It's kind of like the phrase, do I want to be stabbed or do I want to be shot?
No, and the Democrats put out Harris, who last year at this time had 35% approval rating, worse than, you remember this, DT, Dan Quayle, who was George Bush Sr.'s very unpopular vice president back in 89, 90, 91. Some of you youngsters probably don't remember Dan Quayle, but he was the male version of Kamala Harris, very unpopular, kind of a dope, to be honest with you. A smart dope, as we call it, like social skills 0, school skills smart.
You're no Jack Kennedy.
But he'd also forgot to spell potato, and it haunted him for the rest of his career. You don't even hear about Dan Quayle anymore. By the way, Dan Quayle's alive and well, but nobody talks about him anymore. Harris, again, was considered a dope and adult by everybody, including her own party, and now she's the second coming of Oprah. I don't get it, because we're so pathetic that we have nobody, that we got to hitch our wagon to some shitstorm, either on the right or on the left. But we all know it's a card of bullshit. But we're feigning that someone's going to save us out of the 4 of these idiots. And it's either Trump or Harris. It's bad options, and I really do hope that The Rock or somebody like that. I would vote for Dwayne Johnson in a minute. I really would. And not even just because I'm a wrestling fan. That has nothing to do with it. But someone who I think can capture all sides and both sides of the people. No one has been able to do that, DT. No one's been able to bridge the gap to get Democrats and Republicans together. It's just Obama kind of tried half-assed, half-heartedly. It didn't work. And no one's been able to do that. But I just think it's hysterical that 3 weeks ago, guy got shot. Biden comes on TV. Let's lessen the temperature. Let's stop all this between us. 1 day it lasted. 1 fucking day.
Yeah,
and here we are now. Oh, my God.
You know why?
Man.
Because they're like, He's all right. His ear's a little fucked up.
Because he's all right. Yeah, because he's all right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's not the point. You know,
I agree with you. Yeah.
It's, I mean, just, but again, it's just like nobody listens to anybody. Nobody respects anybody enough to listen. We don't have any newscasters like back in our day, like Walter Cronkite and people that we respected, and Barbara Walters, who was a real journalist at one time before she became started that abomination called The View. Barbara's probably rolling in her grave to what that show has become. But there's nobody listens to anybody anymore. Nobody listen. There's people who are throwing away their Hulk Hogan stuff because their childhood hero because he's voting for Trump. This is how demented this has become. People are not cursing out Kevin Nash because he goes, I'm going to vote for Harris. Fuck, Wolfpack NWO, I'm throwing it in the garbage. You vote for Harris. I mean, what are we doing here? So it's like, again, I don't even know what we're doing. Sometimes sounds weird to say this on the 10-year anniversary of my father's passing next week, but I'm glad my father's not around because I think my father would have 10 heart attacks seeing what the fuck did I fight for this country for this bullshit for?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like my father's one of those reflective guys who's like, what the fuck did I was in the military for 40 years on and off, then was voluntarily became a reservist just to be involved, even in my later years in life, just to be a teacher. And my father taught courses at Fort Hamilton. And basically, talk to new soldiers, be kind of like a counselor for them going in or out of the Army. My father would help them with career paths, doing different things if they don't want to be in the military anymore. So my father was kind of like a go-to counselor guy. But I don't even know what he would think of now. And especially with DT, did you see the recruitment of how far down it is for the Army, the Marines, and the Navy right now? Oh, my God. If we got into a war, we don't even have enough guys. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're going to get a pickup game going for nightball in a schoolyard. I mean, what are we doing here? I don't know, man. I don't really feel any way about it anymore, DT. I had one thought process, and now, to be honest with you, I've become indifferent. And it's scary to be indifferent because I have to live here like you do.
Yeah, I'm indifferent now too. I mean, I'm kind of indifferent. I've made it very, very clear that, for me, I'm kind of like shocked at myself of like 5-6 years ago compared to now. 5-6 years ago, I mean, for those that don't remember or weren't around, we were losing listeners because I was talking so much about Trump and politics and this and that. Now I can't stand either side. And I have this idea like, you know what? Stay with my friends, stay with my family, my wife, my dogs, the shows, you, everybody online, and that I'm content. Yeah, if I could get my bills, paid to an extent,
same here.
That's fine with me.
Not always stress about not stress about things you can't control.
Yeah. So
right, because there's nothing we can do about it, But anyway, let's end on a wrestling.
Yeah, let's end on wrestling. Yeah, we got 10 more minutes, so let's end on wrestling now. Tomorrow again. Now I don't know if this is going to be the thumbnail. I put it together yesterday because of Kevin Sullivan had passed away, but tomorrow at 11:15 p.m. after Raw, Kevin and I will be live for the DTKC show on Discord. For those that are new, it is dtkcdiscord.com. It is free. It is very, very easy, and it's very interactive there, and a whole lot of fun every Monday night. And if you can't catch us live, as long as you get the archive, just as good. And this Tuesday on Patreon, I will be live at 8:30 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. I copied Kev. I'm not going to lie. Nice. Kev now does 8:30 p.m. on Thursdays as well. And, so we got a whole bunch of shows this week. And as far as the daily news update, I'm probably going to record it tonight after I get this online. Just be prepared that it's only going to be about 15 minutes long because there's not that much wrestling news that went on since yesterday. So don't expect a whole lot. All right. So let's see who's got some wrestling questions. Let's see. All right. Let's put a question here that someone has not been able to ask tonight. And I want to thank everybody who joined us live. The turnout has been tremendous. We did one in March, and it was nice turnout. Then we did one in June. It was even nicer. And I see the turnover. We've had total tonight about 1,400 of you. Not all, at the same time tonight, but about 1,400 of you, stopping by, and we really appreciate it.
And the next one, DT, let's let everybody know, and we can let them know now.
Yeah.
The next one we'll do, because this will be fun, and a lot of you guys, because a lot of you guys are into certain things that me and DT are into outside of wrestling. In October, we'll do a Halloween edition with horror movies,
Yeah,
Halloween
sure.
theme. We'll pick the date. Me and DT will decide upon the date, and we'll do it. But it'll be a Halloween theme one in October, and then to end the year in December, we'll do an early holiday one, celebrating all the holidays for Christmas, and then just an end of the year special. So the next two, right, DT, will be announced for October and December.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Benjamin, Roman Reigns' music hasn't really changed. It was the theme. I think some people were confused because I saw a couple of podcasters last week for SummerSlam. I'm like, why did they change Roman's theme? The theme that he's got now is what they played at WrestleMania 40. They just didn't. They listen. The reason why they tweaked it a little bit is because the next chapter of Roman Reigns is here, and it started with WrestleMania 40 with him dropping the championship to Cody Rhodes. So the music just kind of reflects the next chapter in Roman Reigns' career. It hasn't changed all that much, and it kind of gives a little bit of suspense in the beginning with the added drums and everything. I like it. I like it.
I like it. I like it. It's almost like someone said summoning the gods, like almost like very like Thor, movie-esque, No, I
Tribalish.
like it. Yeah, tribalish, the drums, dun 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 dun. It's very it gets you up out of your seat, and I think that's the whole point of it. I like it a lot, actually.
Yeah. Michael wants to know our favorite announcer of all time.
A guy that maybe you guys might not be familiar with, DT, you know who he is. And I traded tapes in the 80s just to hear his voice with my friend who lived in Tennessee, Lance Russell from Memphis, Jerry
That's
Lawler,
fucking a nice choice.
CWA
man.
Wrestling. Yeah, Lance Russell's my favorite announcer of all time.
Lawler. I did.
Yeah.
Lance. You know what still bothers me about Lance Russell? You remember when Jerry Lawler was going into the WWE Hall of Fame and he wanted Lance Russell to induct him, and WWE was like, "No, we want a name that everybody knows, so you'll have William Shatner." I was like,
that's because Vince was like, the only regional people know who Lance Russell is. But yeah, Lance Russell, Gordon Solie, and I would say old school Mid-South NWA Jim Ross, I would say for me, it would be third. But number one would be Lance Russell and Gordon Solie, just because, and we were talking about the Kevin Sullivan era of the Satanic Cult. You had to see Gordon Solie announcing that. They have just apparently stabbed Blackjack Mulligan. Blackjack Mulligan has been stabbed. Just guys, you have to hear the call. It's unbelievable. Oh my God.
Man. Gordon Solie was awesome, man. For me, I think it'll always be Gordon Solie. More contemporary. I absolutely love Joey Styles' stuff in ECW because he was able to get away with it with just one commentator, even though, he would have a partner here and there. But Gordon Solie will always be my number one. The only reason why I don't put like Bobby Heenan in there and others is because that was more color than anything else. Gordon Solie, the reason why Gordon Solie has always been number one for me, and I don't mean to sound morbid, but if I was blind, Gordon Solie still, the way he described what was happening, you could close your eyes and visualize it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, Jim Ross was very, very intense and passionate. Michael Cole is great at it now too. But Gordon Solie, like you just said, ladies and gentlemen, Blackjack Mulligan, it appears he's been stabbed. And just but the way he would do it, it was so intense and it felt like it was real.
It was.
Gordon Solie was awesome, man.
Yeah, it is pandemonium in this studio. I mean, it is just pandemonium. He would be so stoic, but he'd be so professional. I mean, he is a throwback type. If you guys watch Florida Wrestling and watch him now, some of you younger dudes might say, I don't know, Kev, he wasn't exactly like Mr. Like, he didn't seem to have any like comedic stuff to him, the way the announcers have a little ha in them. No, he was pretty serious. He was like a news announcer. He was very serious. Lance Russell had a little comedy to him because he played off of his co-host very well. But it was the way you watch wrestling back then. And remember, we took it seriously. Me and Anthony, and you'll admit this too, Anthony, weren't you at the point watching wrestling in your mid-teen years, 15, 16, 17? You knew it was kind of, it was predetermined, but some stuff to you was real. right?
Yeah, sure.
Like
Absolutely.
even when you watch like there was some certain things like we all know, like, and we all know now, when Ricky Steamboat got DDT'd on his face, he was knocked out and it was real, and he did get a concussion and his eye really was swollen. It wasn't makeup. That shit really happened. Jake almost fucking killed him with that DDT. So there was certain elements to it that you're like, okay, that was real. And then there was other stuff that you're like, all right, that's silly shit. Like George the Animal Steel. Like we kind of because you went once we found out DT he was a teacher in Michigan. We were like, then it kind of was the blue. But DT, you ever notice even back then there was never a picture in a magazine of him teaching class or anything like that?
Nope.
You never saw that. They kept the kayfabe going. There was never any George the Animal Steel in school teaching the kids. We never saw that.
Props to Detroit for never posting in their regular newspapers. Wrestling magazines would never do that. But
someone could have did that.
This is legit. This is legit. About 2 years ago, when I was, well, actually, what am I saying? 5 years ago, when we were doing the history shows, I would go on newspapers.com and always search old newspaper articles. And that's why we would get stories that no one had ever told before, because you would find little hidden gems in newspapers, or you would have to just do searches by names. And I had searched George Steele from the Detroit papers around like 81 to maybe 86 to see if they did any articles about him teaching, and there's nothing. There's no references of George Steele, like, no like Sunday special, like, wrestler, teacher, like they didn't do that. And I think the reason why they didn't is because they probably contacted George Steele and said, hey, we'd like to do a story on you in the Sunday news about, you moonlighting as a wrestler, as a teacher. And he probably said, go fuck yourself. I'm not outing myself, and then I lose my pay. Yeah, they protected the business big that time. But Gordon Soley, I'll tell everybody this, and we're going to bring this home now. If you want a little ECW taste of Gordon Soley, and I've always brought this up, and it's on the history shows, and it's tremendous. You go to Slamboree, I think 94, I think it is, when WCW was in Philly. There was a match between Tully Blanchard and Terry Funk on that pay-per-view, and Gordon Soley and Bobby Heenan are the announcers. And it happened in Philly, and the fans are chanting ECW during the match, and it ended up turning kind of hardcore. And if you close your eyes and listen to the match, you would swear that Bobby Heenan and Gordon Soley are in the ECW arena calling an ECW match. It's if you're an ECW fan and you like old school commentating, go check out that match, but don't watch it. Close your eyes and listen to it, and you'll appreciate it that much more. You'll actually get suspension of disbelief. You'll swear that Bobby Heenan and Gordon Soley are in the ECW arena.
Wow.
Yep. Kev, you want to wrap this up?
Take a couple more.
Yeah, we can take more if you want. Sure.
We'll take a few more. Well, why don't we just go to 11:15? We'll do a solid 2 hours.
All right.
3 hours. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll take 10 more minutes. Absolutely. So, trust me, the match is fun. It's nothing earth shattering, but if you're an ECW fan and always fantasize like another announcer working an ECW show, it's worth it. So, Kevin Milwaukee says if Daddy Magic, Matt Menard, and Maxine Dupree ever had a baby together, they would have the craziest eyes of all time. I don't see anything wrong with Maxine Dupree. I mean, and now I understand why WWE kind of like has a lot of work for her. I don't know. She's kind of like Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler combined. Like she's got the Stacy Keibler legs and the Tori Wilson looks.
Yeah, she does.
Yep. VJ wants to know, do we agree that the biggest issue with AEW is that there's no real boss? Vince has his issues, but everybody knew that he was the boss and was feared and respected. Everybody knows Tony Khan's the boss. It's just that Tony Khan runs a summer camp.
He's not respected. And the bloom is too off the rose with that. Tony would have to do such an about face that I don't know. Tony's only thing he could do now is hire a legit, not an on-screen, but a legit GM in the back who's going to run things, not necessarily like a tyrant, but no frills, no bullshit. Someone who is the boss. He doesn't even have to check with Tony Khan. A real backstage, not on-screen, off-screen GM. That's his best bet right now.
You want AEW's product to improve? These wrestlers have to feel like if they don't deliver, their job is on the line. In NXT, Kevin and I are friends with various people that work in different wrestling promotions. And I will tell you that everybody that we know that works in those promotions have said that, no, I can't wing it. I can't just fucking go in cruise control. If I don't fucking deliver, I may be released. There's very few people that are exception to the rule, like the main event stars, but a lot of people, like you said earlier about Bray Wyatt and others. Oh my God, how could they let this person go? Oh my God, how could they not re-sign this person? Oh my God, how could they not bring this person back? Well, if they feel that somebody's not worth the money they put in, or if they're just not delivering, they'll let go. There's been some people cut in NXT. I mean, that you kind of scratch your head and like, wow, I'm kind of surprised they let that person go. And, you realize, hey, they're not delivering. They're not, they don't feel that there's growth. And WWE, in AEW, there's too much job security. The only time you see people kind of ramping it up is when you hear that they only have 2-3 months left on their contract.
Yeah, it's true.
Douche wants to know, do you have thoughts on wrestling-related hardcore bands like the Bad Luck 13 Riot Extravaganza, Eat the Turnbuckle, or Gordon Soley Motherfuckers by Al Quint and Suburban Voice Zin?
Oh, of course, I know Bad Luck 13 for many, many years. They're on the same label as my brothers were on years ago, Too Damn Hype, in the early days of Bad Luck 13. Eat the Turnbuckle, I know personally. Never worked with them, but I know of them playing many shows for promoters I know. They did play the club that I work at, but they played before I got there and took over as head of bookings. I don't know Gordon Soley Motherfuckers. I don't know them. That's actually new to me. But Bad Luck 13's been around almost 30 years. DT, Bad Luck 13, you have to watch their stuff there. It's a wrestling-oriented hardcore band with chair throwing and body slams, and suplexes, and dives off the stage, and it's crazy shit.
Can I ask you a question? Were they around 20 years ago?
Longer than that, but they were around. Their popularity was between 20 and 25 years ago. But
okay,
I don't know if they're still around to this day. But their big thing was during that late 90s ECW days. I think that's where really got spawned from. I don't know their exact origins, but I know many shows that they were on, and I also know that they can't play and couldn't play many clubs because they were afraid of the the mess that would be made and just the debacle that it could sometimes become with the crowd and stuff. It was very select clubs that they played because some clubs would outright not book them.
Okay,
did you run into them?
Well, I'm gonna throw something out there. If anybody out there still talks to a wrestler called Frankie Stars, please find out if the group in question was Bad Luck 13, because I think that this might be it, okay? Back in 2004 or 5, I think it's either 3, 4, or 5. I think it's 2003. I went to Long Island to some rock club, and it was myself, Matt Zombie, Brian Damage, Timmy Austin, the ECW Zombie, God rest his soul, and Balls Mahoney was there, and Frankie Stars were there. And what happened was they had like a little band gig, and the group was a wrestling related group, and they had Frankie Stars on the stage with them, and it was a mosh pit going on. And what ended
it was definitely Bad Luck 13. It was definitely them.
Yeah, and what happened was
no other band like that then.
Yeah, there was a mosh pit, and then Balls Mahoney came out and chair bashed Frankie Stars like you would not believe, and then everybody started diving into the crowds. And
that's definitely Bad Luck.
Yeah, I was there, and it was bizarre because below the club in the basement, we were down there hanging out in the basement, and as you walked throughout the basement, you would see like a couple of guys doing lines in the corner. Another guy is fooling around with a girl. Another guy is doing this with this. And it was just like bizarre. I mean, it was just.
What year was this? Early 2000s?
It had to have been around 2003 because.
Okay, it was definitely. Eat the Turnbuckle, I think, came out later than that. And the other band. It had to be them. They formed in 96. They're a Philly-based band, by the way. They're from Philly. They came out in 96. and they were still playing actively. So I'm going to think if it was wrestling related, it probably was 2003. If it was that band, but there's no other band who was doing that at the time, but them in the Northeast at least.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
the Turnbuckle,
curious.
I think
I
came
mean,
later on. They came later on.
yeah, I mean, Balls Mahoney's no longer with us. So I can't ask him, but Frankie Stars, I haven't talked to in ages, but Frankie Stars is the one that ate the chair shot that night. And
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
it was crazy. Rickshaw, which one, pick one upper card, current talents in the WWE, a top guy that would be perfect for AEW right now, no restrictions whatsoever. Who do we think, if one top guy jumped to AEW right now, they'd be perfect?
CM Punk. No, I'm just kidding. Send Sheamus to AEW.
Really?
Sheamus, yeah. Sheamus in AEW.
I would, you know what? I don't know if he would be considered a top talent anymore, but then again, you know, he put himself in great shape. I would choose AJ Styles.
A top. Yeah, but AJ's old though. He's 46 years old. Is that really what they need? Another old man? They need the young guy. Wow, Damian Priest is not.
What about Giovanni Vinci? Did you see the Friday what they did? I couldn't believe it.
Guys, you know what I think of when I see that? So not going to get over.
No, he's dead.
So it's going to be Vade Hansen kind of shit. Remember Vade Hansen, or that guy who's going to fight the Undertaker? He had 2 promos. This is going to be Kazarni levels of here and gone in 3 weeks. Yeah, the Da Vinci thing. I'm Italian. I drive a sports car. He's so doomed. It's not even funny. I'm like, just release the fucking guy. Why do this to him? Yeah. It's not going to work. Nobody cares that he was an Imperium. He was the 3rd man in Imperium. So yeah, DT. When I saw that promo, I'm like, they have truly given up. Because there's nothing to that. I drive fast cars, and I'm from Italy. We got a guy from Italy already. His name is the other Don Tony in the NXT faction. Don't we already have Italian guy? I mean, what? He drives fast cars, but this is wrestling. This is wrestling. Did Sparky Plug work out DT in WWE? You know, fast race car driver doesn't work out.
No, when they made him hardcore Holly, it got a little bit over.
Yeah, they should change it. They just I'm suave and I make the most out of my baldness. It's he's not the cool kind of bald either. He's kind of like the like pretty boy, kind of gross kind of guy. I just don't see him as connecting to anybody. He's not related. Who's he going to connect to?
Yeah.
Like I don't see him as connecting. If you think Cross struggles to get over, some of you people in the chat, how's Da Vinci going to get over? You know, I'm Italian. Hey, I'm Italian. Like that's not going to do anything. What's that going to do?
If he ends up getting cut, if I ever get to have a personal conversation with him, I got to ask him, like, what was going through your mind when they said, all right, we're going to bring the Italian gimmick back and you're going to drive this fancy car, and did you think for a minute, like, maybe you should just crash into this wall and just end it all now? Accidentally, maybe run over the production crew or something like that. Like, I could only imagine what was going through his head.
When I saw the vignette and I was at my refrigerator, I'm pouring myself a drink, and I'm like, is this WWE programming? And I looked at what is that? Who's this guy? And I'm looking, I see the corner of the WWE logo. I'm like, who's this? And I just see him in the car in the long coat and coming out. And I like to find, the finer things in life. I'm like, who? Alberto Del Rio shaved his head? Like, who is this? And I blanked on it for a second. I'm like, who is this bald guy? And I was like, because if you notice, DT, he lost some weight.
Yes.
And I was like, he looked much thinner in the face. And I'm like, who's this bald pretty boy? And I was like, oh, it's fucking Imperium, dude. It's Da Vinci. Because I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He's not from NXT. Who is this guy?
It was so bad.
Like, I didn't know who it is. Yeah, I'm Italian. I was like, oh, good. Dude, that's going to do you more harm than good. Let me tell you right now.
Well, this is a good one. This is definitely a good one because Raw, I mean, a lot of you are going to hear this show after Raw airs, but DeMarcus brings up a good question. How important is it for the follow-up of Bronson Reed after what he did to Seth Rollins on Raw last week? How important is the follow-up of what happens this week? Who confronts Bronson Reed, or does Bronson Reed take somebody else out?
He takes somebody else out. He capitalizes that he will do anything it takes to get recognized. He took out a top 5 guy in the company. Say what you want about Seth Rollins, belt or no belt, he's always top 5. Some people can argue top 3 in the company, okay? He took him out. He's got to capitalize on that. Seth is out for an undetermined amount of time legitimately. This was a way to get him off of TV, and I don't believe they're going to bring him back or even put him in a vignette on the screen saying, you put me out, but I'm coming back. I don't even know if they're going to do that. They might have him sight unseen, DT, until he's ready to come back. So what he's got to do in the meantime is do a bragging right, go out, cut a promo. I put out the music. I stopped them the day the music died. Basically, you guys have no more sing along. I'm going to take out your next favorite. Who else do you like around here? Who's next? And let him do something like that, where he's doing like a Mark Henry Hall of Pain kind of thing, DT, or House of Pain, whatever he was doing, where he's going to be like, who's your next favorite? Like, go on the crowd, base it on them, antagonize the crowd, saying, I took away your singing. You know, it's more Seth Rollins sing-alongs for you guys. And who's the next guy that you love so much? He's my next victim. That's the way they're like, oh shit, this guy's going to be a problem for people, and the fans are going to see him even in things like, oh, who's he going to go after next? You have to capitalize, DT. If they even go 1 week, if Bronson Reed does not get promo time tomorrow to antagonize the crowd, to say I took out sing along Seth, and that's what he should actually call him, that like to just debase him. They have completely wasted this. Completely. They have to capitalize. Tomorrow night, he has to get in-ring promo time, and he's got to kill it on the mic tomorrow night. He's got to kill it.
I hope in storyline, Adam Pearce finds him and not suspends him, because if they suspend him, then that's how they don't have him on TV. You know what I would do tomorrow? I'm trying to figure out, like, who can he take out next, especially leading into Berlin.
Ron Killings, let him.
Oh, he'll be doing us a favor, kind of. You know,
but let him hurt somebody that the crowd will hate that he's hurting. Right? The Miz, I don't know about the Miz, because the Miz, some people are like, but take out a crowd favorite. Take out somebody.
I think I figured it out.
Who could he take out?
Well,
without interfering in the Punk angle with Drew or any of the top guy shit that's going on. Like somebody upper card.
How's about this? Tomorrow we're getting 2 out of 3 falls. Bronson. Well, we got 2 out of 3 falls. Bronson Reed versus, Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn. 2 out of 3 falls. So they have 1 fall apiece, and it goes to the third, and then Bronson Reed comes out and just destroys Sami Zayn, puts him on the shelf for the next couple of weeks.
I honestly, DT, I like the Otis thing better, because I want Sammy to stay in the mix of the civil wars that are coming up. I don't want him to get derailed. Otis could be that guy, DT, because the guys are stuck with the Wyatt Six now. That feud has just begun. So Otis's crew is going to be looking for something to do. Guys, I'll be honest with you. I think Bronson Reed should take out Maxine Dupree. with 6 splashes. Guys, how awesome would that be with him to give Maxine 6 splashes? How fucking awesome would that be? Oh, my God.
It's funny. Everybody says, oh, this is edgy WWE again, and they absolutely refuse to do male on female simulated violence. I need
they
to
should be able to do that. That's what Netflix, I bet they do it. Yeah.
On Netflix. Yeah, even with the mixed tag. I watched the footage after SmackDown where it was Braun Strowman and Kairi Sane versus Dom and Liv, and they absolutely, like, the female could always hit the male, but it's never the opposite. The last time I think we really saw that was Corbin hitting his move on Becky Lynch. We kind of were going to get that with Nia Jackson. I think Jey Uso back then, but we didn't get that. Or Nia Jackson, was it R-Truth? I don't know why I keep thinking about R-Truth.
DT, I think, with Ivar out, he had a nice little feud with Ivar, Battle of the Super Heavyweights. I think Otis is the perfect guy to target. The fans love Otis. He is beloved. Take him out next. And then you took out, and then what he can do. Then what he can do is, until Seth is ready to come back, battle of the big boys, have Otis and fucking Bronson go at it for a few matches. And then Seth makes the big return at the Survivor Series and can challenge or, do a big fucking grandiose comeback. I think Otis, they match up perfectly. And again, Otis is beloved. Let him go after him. He's not going to go after anybody on the level of Seth, because then you're talking about CM Punk. You're talking about Jey Uso could be a target. But again, they got to start figuring Jay and Sammy into this bloodline thing. This
Yeah.
is playing out now. So I don't want to get derailed with a feud with Bronson Reed. I mean, unless Bronson Reed, who is Samoan, by the way, is going to be part of that bloodline thing, which he's not. I think Otis, whoever mentioned in chat, props to you. I kind of just tagged it off of you. But I think Otis is a good guy. And if we see that tomorrow night, then you're paying attention. Like, that's what we talk about, our fans just paying attention, you know?
Yeah, Rick, I like Nia winning the belt. She's worked hard to get back, and she is definitely improved. And, you know, if anybody that says, she still sucks, I think, listen, everybody has the right to their opinion, but I think that's just people that just absolutely will never, you know, be a fan of Nia Jax. I think she's doing fine. But,
yeah, she's okay.
Yeah, listen, I don't think there's any females joining the bloodline. I think we are way past that. There's no reason to put Naomi in the bloodline. There's no reason to put Nia Jax in the bloodline. There's a lot of fans that like to push that, but for what? You know, we're trying to go to the next chapter where it's going to go to Survivor Series, Bloodline Civil War games. I do not think any woman should be involved in that group by this point.
No, I don't think so. I agree, TT.
Yeah, and Tamina, no. She's gone. I mean, she's gone. Yeah, she's got. It's like quote, you know, the guy in Goodfellas. He talked to Robert De Niro. Up, she's gone. There's nothing that can be done about it. It's when Joe Pesci got whacked. So
that's great stuff.
So you want to call it?
Yeah, unless there's anything else.
Yeah, I think we pretty much are done. I mean, I think it's kind of lightened up a little bit, but we've done a little bit of a marathon, and we're not done. You know, less than 24 hours later, Kevin and I will be back once again, and we'll do our regular DTKC show. We'll talk about Raw. We'll talk about anything else that's going on. We'll get into some combo, and we'll finish up with Tyree that just sent a 5-spot in. Do we really think it makes sense for Jacob Fatu to be in cahoots with Roman Reigns? He reads so many people with that take, it makes no sense.
No, I don't. I don't think there's any reason. I mean, listen, Roman manhandled the three of them. He didn't do much to Solo, but Roman looks like so much of a bigger star. Solo's only in the business 3 or 4 years. Reigns has so much experience over him. And quite honestly, the Girls of Destiny looked amateur hour next to Roman Reigns. Even when he was lifting them up and beating them down, it just looked like almost so unfair. And almost like Reigns could take both of these Girls of Destiny guys on by himself. They were never going to be as big as Roman Reigns. You know, Tama Tonga talked a big game for many years about Roman Reigns. But when you look at the two of them next to each other, DT, it's obvious who was the iconic legend in wrestling and who had a nice little run in New Japan, but is not one of the big boy players in this company. Never will be. Never will be. Tama Tonga's a good hand. That's what he is. He's a Tito Santana-like guy. He ain't winning any titles outside of tag, and Tonga Loa has become comedy fodder at this point. I mean, he is a stumbling and fumbling guy. DT is like Spider in Goodfellas, stumbling, fumbling with the drinks. He's like Spider. And Jacob Fatu's the real deal, but very untested on a grand stage. He has a long time to go before he could mess with Roman Reigns in a main event on a pay-per-view. DT, would you say a year away? Maybe a little bit?
I think a year away is pretty fair.
Yeah, a year away.
And a year will get here a lot quicker than people realize. I mean, we just talked about it. It's unbelievable that it's a year already where Finn Balor had his match with Seth Rollins and Damian Priest slid the briefcase in and Seth curb stomped Finn, and it looked like kind of like a comedy show. And that was a year already.
So Jacob Fatu is the real deal to a degree. We have to see how he navigates in a very professional company, his behavior, his attitude. So again, let's not put the crown, let's, to quote Pulp Fiction, let's not suck each other's dicks quite just yet about Jacob Fatu. He's got a lot to prove. You could show me clips all day long, guys, of him at House of Glory and this, that, doing flips and stuff. He's on the grand stage now. So far, so good. But also, let's remember, a lot of people have sold for him. So far, so good. Kevin Owens and Randy Orton put their bodies on the line for him. It's who makes you look good, right, DT? It's the person who's helping you get
Absolutely.
over too. He's destroying everybody. Yeah, because that's part of the script. So let's calm down. He hasn't done much yet. He is, I believe he is injured, and they're also keeping him away for Reigns. It's a 1-2 combination that he did hurt his shin. WWE's being hush-hush about it because they're not sure what's going on with his health, and they're going to keep him away from Reigns, true. But he is a year away from being able to have a singles meaningful match with the biggest star in wrestling. He is not there yet. He needs time. But the one thing I'll say is the good thing is the new bloodline's doing their job as a heel faction. They're not being cheered as cool heels. They are hated heels, and DT is quite refreshing because let's be honest, it gets very annoying after a while with the cool hip heel faction. We've been dealing with that since the fucking Horsemen. I'm glad that these guys are bad guys and they are not cheerable bad guys. I want to hate Solo, and boy is he doing a good job because most of us hate him, and that's his job. That's his job.
Solo's doing good. I mean, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors as far as his matches go because he loses almost every match in singles, but fans don't care. They want to see Roman Reigns get his hands on Solo Sikoa, beat the shit out of him. And that's
right, and there's no split of audience on that. It's like 90-10.
Yeah.
That majority. It's not like we want Solo. There's not going to be we want Solo. It's going to be all Reigns. People are already sick of this guy for 3 months saying he's the tribal chief. It is like someone walking around. It's like you watch Seinfeld when Kramer went up for the award and ended up getting one of the awards for the Broadway play that he was never in, and he didn't have any part of it, but he's walking around with the audience, and it's just like Solo. He's self-declared, and that rubs every wrestling fan the wrong way. It's like, dude, you are not the tribal chief. This is starting to annoy me that you're saying this. It's not like fun. It's like fans are really annoyed. Like this guy lost most of his matches. He wouldn't be the tribal chief anyway. Like, if they're gonna have a tribal chief, it would be maybe Jey Uso, not Solo. Solo's like he's on Jimmy's level, not even. So it's annoying people that he self-anointed himself. That's the whole play on this. Solo's never going to get We Want Solo chance until he turns full-fledged babyface down the road, which I'm sure his crew will turn on him, DT, and then Jacob will be the leader of that faction. They kick Solo out, then Solo becomes a face.
Absolutely. Speaking of kicking people out, DeMarcus thinks that Santos Escobar should get rid of Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza and just leave it him and Elektra Lopez.
Oh yeah. Oh, Elektra Lopez is so hot, by the way. She's great, and I saw a great interview with her and Dr. Bo Hightower, the guy who does the chiropractic stuff.
Oh
DT,
yes.
on all the wrestlers. She was on his latest show episode. She's a sweetheart. She really she's a New Yorker, DT. I didn't really know that. She's Jersey,
I did not know that.
Has a lot of ties in New York, and she does not talk with a heavy Latin accent at all. She's very cutesy, fun. Like, very girly, like very cool, but likes to hang with the boys. But she was very, very likable in this kind of candid interview. It wasn't really an interview. I mean, she was on the table getting her back adjusted.
I was just going to say, is she on her back?
No, but and it's so awkward to watch him, like, rubbing her glute muscles and stuff, and she's trying to have a serious conversation with him. And it's if you guys ever watch the Bo Hightower stuff, it's really fun to watch. Especially when he's doing back adjustments on the female wrestlers. But she's real likable, and she's a big wrestling fan. She's a legit wrestling fan. So if you guys haven't seen that, go check it. It's only like 25 minutes long. But I think that there might be get rid of some dead weight and some of the things. And DT, I do believe that after before Survivor Series or at some point, there's going to be another round of cuts in WWE.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, Rick just brought up the Lucha Bros. Lucha Bros are pretty much WWE bound. A lot of people are pretty convinced Ricky Starks is going to be WWE bound. There's rumors about Daniel Garcia, although I don't know what they're really going to do with him, to be honest with you. He ain't doing that dancing shit there.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah, there's going to be another round of cuts. And we'll see some people get graduated from NXT, and, they'll just keep that turnaround going. I think the Lucha Bros will probably start off in NXT. I think that's kind of the way to go. Give them a little bit of humble pie and not make them, feel like they're immediate. I don't think they'll be in NXT for all that long, but, you bring them to the main roster and, my God, they could feud. They have many more Lucha Libre type wrestlers when you think of Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza and Santos Escobar and Andrade and the LWO. I mean, and there's others, so You get that,
I agree.
yeah. So I there's going to be a more turnaround, and we'll see what transpires. But one thing I think we all agree on is that for the remainder of 2024, going into WrestleMania of next year, there's going to be a lot of shit to talk about.
Sure, there is going to be a lot.
There's going to be a lot of shit to talk about, and it's fun. It's fun, and I'm looking forward to NXT going to the CW network. It's going to be interesting what kind of viewership they get, and October 1st will be the debut. CM Punk will be on that show, and then Randy Orton will be the host of October 8th, and then you have AEW bringing Dynamite to the Tuesday night, so there'll be another head-to-head. There's so many things going on. Yeah, there's always stuff to talk about, and that's what makes these shows that much more fun. Like, we really look forward to these shows, and you look forward to being on with Mish, and we look forward to our Patreon shows. We look forward to Friday night. I mean, it's fun to talk about this shit right now. And if you notice, we don't talk doom and gloom.
No.
we poke fun where necessary, and we criticize where necessary, but we don't do any doom and gloom. So
no, it's like I said, it's as much as there's a negative narrative in the air in this country in America with politics. On the entertainment side and the wrestling side, which is what we do first and foremost, things are good.
Yeah. Well, Kev, I want to thank you for 3.5 hours of your time tonight. Had some fun. I think we raised a lot of awareness and raised some revenue as well. So we get to pay some bills. And I hope everyone again joins us Monday night, 11:15 p.m. after Raw. And we'll continue the conversations there.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Thank you, everybody in the chat, and I'll see you and everybody tomorrow.
I'll DM you later on. All right,
sounds good.
Have a good one.
Peace, dude.
Be well.
You too, man.
Take care. Guys, thank you for a tremendous fun night tonight. Almost 1,700 of you off and on during this broadcast, and we'll do it again. In the near future, it'll be here before you know it. And we don't want to overstay our welcome, especially here on YouTube. But big shout out to everybody who joined us live. If you couldn't join us live and you're checking out the archive, I hope you enjoy it as well. And again, just keep supporting what we do. Download the shows. That allows us to stay relevant in the stats. And, if you want to support us a little bit further and you want extra content, obviously we have our Patreon that has about 7.5 years of content there that we have built up. We have channel memberships on YouTube, and big shout out again to David Levy and Tom Nelson, who won the predictions contest from SummerSlam. And post your feedback. Let us know what you thought about this episode. Anything that we discussed. If you wholeheartedly agree on something or wholeheartedly disagree about something, even with the women talk earlier, that was kind of funny. And please, I will say this, just take that conversation lightly. We're not trying to be too creepy 50-year-olds talking about fantasizing about 20-something-year-old women. We're just having fun. Sometimes I think some get a little bit too over the top with that. But I had fun tonight. And my apologies to everyone with that person earlier about Lex Luger. Totally unnecessary, but you know what? Props to that guy for not trolling afterwards. So, our chat room, we take pride, whether it's YouTube or Discord, even Patreon. When we do our Patreon shows, our chat rooms are so laid back, so down to earth, so much fun. You could say what you want here. You could even disagree with stuff, express your opinion. As long as there's no trolling, everybody respects it. And that's one of the real bright points of what we do. And that's why we like doing some of these shows live. It's the interaction with all of you. Believe me, if the chat room sucked and they were toxic, we would pre-record everything and just upload it. You just enjoy it that way. But this is going to be fun. I'm going to watch some of this back later in the week and focus on the chat room and see a lot of your reactions and some of your answers to some of the topics we discussed. But I'm going to jet out of here. You all have a good rest of your evening. For me, I'm not done. I got to get this online, and then I got to get the wrestling news update for Monday morning's report. I already have my topics prepared, and we'll get into it. That report will only be about 15 minutes, I could tell you right now, but definitely enough wrestling news to cover. So You all be well, everyone. Thank you again. Much love, and we'll catch you all again soon. Have a good one.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.